Have you ever stood before something ancient and felt a whisper from the past, a mystery so profound it stops you in your tracks? All around our world, hidden in jungles, carved into mountains, and buried beneath deserts, lie incredible structures that defy explanation, monuments built with such skill and vision that they rival our modern engineering, yet their origins remain completely unknown. These are not just ruins, they are unanswered questions in stone, left by cultures whose names have been lost to time, whose stories have faded into legend. Today, we embark on a journey to uncover the secrets of 30 of the most mysterious temples ever built, places where the architects left no blueprints, no signatures, and no clues to their identity. Imagine wandering through a vast complex of perfectly aligned stones, each one weighing tons, placed with such precision that not a blade of grass can slip between them. Or descending into an underground sanctuary adorned with symbols that no one alive can fully decipher. These temples challenge everything we think we know about ancient civilizations. They push the boundaries of history and archaeology, inviting us to reconsider who we are and where we come from. This is more than a history lesson, it's a global detective story, and you are part of the investigation. Together, we'll traverse continents and eras, from the humid heart of the Amazon to the windswept plateaus of Asia, in search of the truth behind these enigmatic wonders. What drives humans to create something magnificent only to vanish without a trace? Was it devotion, ambition, or something else entirely? As we explore these silent, awe-inspiring sites, we're not just uncovering lost architecture, we're piecing together the dreams and beliefs of people long gone, people whose legacy is written in stone but whose voices have been silenced by centuries. So settle in and open your mind to the possibilities, because what you're about to discover might just change the way you see human history forever. This is a journey into the unknown, and it starts right now. Our journey begins in the rolling hills of southeastern Turkey, at a place known as Göbekli Tepe, which translates to Potbelly Hill. To the untrained eye, it might look like just another rise in the landscape, but what lies beneath this earth is nothing short of a historical earthquake. Discovered in the 1990s, this site has completely upended our understanding of human prehistory. Göbekli Tepe is staggeringly old, dating back an incredible 12,000 years. To put that into perspective, it was already ancient when the Great Pyramids of Giza were built. It predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years and the invention of pottery or the wheel. This was a time when humans were supposedly simple hunter-gatherers, living in small nomadic bands, concerned primarily with survival. The existence of Göbekli Tepe shatters that image. What makes this site so astonishing are its massive T-shaped limestone pillars. These are not small stones. The largest pillars weigh over 20 tons and stand nearly 20 feet tall. They were quarried from local bedrock and moved without the use of animals or wheels to the summit of this hill. They were then arranged into great stone circles with two even larger pillars positioned at the center of each ring. But the true marvel is their artistry. The pillars are not blank, they are covered in breathtakingly intricate carvings. A menagerie of ancient animals leaps from the stone: foxes, gazelles, scorpions, vultures, and lions, all rendered with a sophistication and skill that we never imagined possible for people of that era. This was not crude work, it was the product of master artisans. The purpose of these enigmatic circles remains one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. Most experts believe it was a temple, the world's first known mountain sanctuary, a place of ritual and gathering. The carvings are not mere decoration. They likely hold profound symbolic meaning, a belief system carved in stone for eternity. But then comes the second, even deeper mystery. Around 8000 BC, for reasons we can only guess, the people of Göbekli Tepe deliberately buried their entire magnificent creation. They brought basketloads of earth and stone from the surrounding area and carefully filled in every corridor and circle, preserving it perfectly for millennia. Was it an act of reverence? Were they hiding it from something or someone? Or was it a ritual closing of a sacred space? We may never know their motives. This single site forces a monumental rewrite of human history. We used to believe that agriculture came first, that the stability of farming allowed humans to settle down in villages, which then gave them the free time and social organization to build temples and develop complex religion. Göbekli Tepe turns that theory on its head. It suggests that it was the desire to build a temple, to come together for a common spiritual purpose, that actually sparked the first settled communities. The need to feed the hundreds of workers and pilgrims might have been the catalyst for the domestication of wheat and other crops. In essence, religion may have been the engine that launched civilization itself. Göbekli Tepe stands as a silent, defiant challenge from our ancestors, a reminder that the past is far stranger and more sophisticated than we ever dared to dream. From the sun-baked plains of ancient Turkey, we now travel northwest to the misty Salisbury Plain of England, home to perhaps the most iconic and instantly recognizable mysterious structure in the world, Stonehenge. This great ring of standing stones set within earthworks has captivated the human imagination for centuries. While it may seem familiar, its true story is one of incredible effort, celestial precision, and profound mystery. We know it was constructed in several stages over a span of more than 1,000 years, beginning around 5,000 years ago. But the identity of the ingenious architects who conceived this masterpiece remains one of history's greatest enigmas. The first layer of this mystery lies in the sheer scale of the operation. The smaller stones, known as blue stones for their distinctive hue when wet or broken, each weigh up to 4 tons. Their origin is not local. Geological analysis has traced them all the way to the Preseli Hills in Wales, a staggering distance of over 150 miles. Imagine the monumental effort required 5 millennia ago. How did they move these colossal rocks? The prevailing theory suggests they were dragged on sledges and rollers, perhaps partially by water on rafts, through treacherous terrain and across rivers. This was a project that would have demanded a highly organized society, sophisticated logistics, and a motivation so powerful it compelled generations of people to dedicate their lives to its completion. Then there are the massive sarsen stones that form the famous outer circle and central trilithons, the 2 upright stones with 1 lintel on top. These are truly gigantic, with the largest weighing around 25 tons. These were sourced from the Marlborough Downs, 20 miles to the north. Transporting them was a Herculean feat in itself, but the craftsmanship is what truly astonishes. The stones were shaped with stone mauls, and the lintels were secured using sophisticated woodworking joints, mortise holes, and tenon peaks, all carved directly into the solid rock. This indicates a deep understanding of engineering and a desire for permanence that speaks to a sacred purpose. This purpose is revealed in the site's breathtaking celestial alignment. The entire monument is precisely oriented to frame the movements of the sun and moon. On the summer solstice, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the heel stone, casting its rays directly into the heart of the circle. Similarly, the winter solstice sunset is framed by the grand trilithons. This was clearly more than a calendar. It was a celestial cathedral, a place intimately connected to the cycles of the cosmos, the seasons, and likely life and death itself. But what was it for? The theories are as varied as they are fascinating. Many archaeologists believe it was primarily a place of the dead, a massive cemetery where the remains of cremated individuals were interred, connecting their spirits to the eternal cycles of the heavens. Others propose it was a place of healing, a Neolithic Lourdes where the blue stones were believed to possess magical curative properties, drawing pilgrims from across the land. It could have also been a unifying political and religious center, a symbol of power for a ruling class that brought disparate tribes together. The truth is, it was likely all these things and more at different points in its long history. Its original builders, however, left no written records. They are a ghost in the machine, their names and language lost, leaving behind only this silent, stoic ring of stones that continues to guard its secrets as the centuries roll by. Leaving the ancient stone circles of Europe behind, we now venture to the sun-scorched sands of Egypt, to a structure so famous it needs almost no introduction, yet so misunderstood it holds countless secrets. The Great Pyramid of Giza. For centuries we've been taught it was a tomb, a final resting place for the pharaoh Khufu. But to label this monumental achievement merely as a tomb is like calling the Sistine Chapel a well-painted ceiling. It completely misses the point. The Great Pyramid is, in its essence, one of the most profound and enigmatic temples ever constructed by human hands, a machine of stone built to bridge the gap between the earthly and the divine. Let's first consider its temple-like qualities. This was not a place for public worship. It was a sacred, restricted sanctuary designed for a single, supreme purpose: to serve as a vehicle for the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the gods and take his place among the stars, specifically in the constellation of Orion. Every aspect of its design reflects this spiritual function. The narrow, claustrophobic ascending passages aren't just corridors, they are a symbolic representation of the difficult path to the afterlife. The king's chamber, with its stark, monumental sarcophagus, was not a burial vault but a chamber of transformation, a resonant space where ritual and architecture combined to facilitate a cosmic rebirth. The entire structure was once encased in brilliantly polished, gleaming white Chora limestone, acting as a giant mirror reflecting the sun's rays, making it look like a literal beacon of light on the earth, a fitting home for a god-king. The sheer precision of its construction is what truly separates it from any other building in history, ancient or modern. The Great Pyramid is a masterpiece of geodetic and astronomical engineering. Its base is almost a perfect square, with sides that vary by less than 0.2% in length, an astonishing feat of surveying. It is oriented to the cardinal points with an accuracy within a fraction of a single degree, almost perfectly aligning with true north. How did the ancient Egyptians achieve this near-perfect alignment? The leading theory suggests they used the simultaneous transit of two stars circling the celestial pole, a complex astronomical method that demonstrates a deep and sophisticated understanding of the night sky. Then comes the question that has baffled engineers for millennia. How was it built? The numbers are staggering. It is composed of approximately 2.3 million individual stone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons, with some of the granite slabs in the burial chamber weighing up to 80 tons. The conventional explanation involves ramps, straight ramps, zigzagging ramps, ramps that spiraled around the rising structure, but each theory has its flaws. A straight ramp long enough to reach the top would have required more material than the pyramid itself. A spiral ramp would have obstructed the crucial sight lines needed to maintain the pyramid's perfect geometry. The puzzle of how these blocks were quarried, transported across the Nile, and then lifted into place with such breathtaking precision remains hotly debated. Recent discoveries of a 1,200-year-old papyrus diary from a foreman named Murrah describe transporting the limestone casing stones by boat, which solves part of the logistics puzzle, but the core construction methods are still a mystery. This has, of course, led to more speculative theories. Some propose the use of a lost, advanced technology, or even knowledge handed down from a much older, forgotten civilization. Others suggest the ancient Egyptians possessed a method of softening or somehow manipulating stone to make it easier to shape and move. While mainstream archaeology dismisses these ideas, their persistence highlights a fundamental truth. The standard explanations still feel insufficient to many when confronted with the overwhelming reality of the pyramid's perfection. It stands as a silent, defiant challenge to our assumptions about the capabilities of ancient people, a monument that continues to inspire awe and wonder not just for its scale, but for the profound, seemingly impossible knowledge its construction required. It is a temple of mathematics, a cathedral of astronomy, and a permanent question mark etched into the desert floor. Yet what truly defies belief is the material they were working with. Puma Punku is constructed primarily of andesite and red sandstone. Andesite is an extremely hard, dense igneous rock, similar to granite in its durability. To shape this stubborn material with such flawless precision, the builders would have needed tools harder than the stone itself. Modern geologists and engineers are baffled. Diamond-tipped saws and powered machinery would struggle to achieve such clean, sharp edges and perfectly planar surfaces today. The surfaces are so smooth they appear almost vitrified or melted, as if some form of intense heat was applied to seal the stone. This has led to countless theories, some suggesting the use of lost ancient technologies, perhaps even tools or knowledge that feel almost otherworldly to our modern understanding. The complete absence of any records, any depictions of construction, or even any local legends explaining how it was done only deepens the mystery. The Inca, who came millennia later and used the site, believed it was constructed by the gods themselves in a single night. When you stand before these impossible stones, that explanation feels less like a myth and more like a genuine expression of awe. Puma Punku doesn't just ask who built it, it fundamentally questions how they did it, presenting a stone puzzle that continues to resist any easy solution. Our journey now takes us beneath the waves to a discovery so controversial it divides entire fields of science. Off the coast of Japan's westernmost island, Yonaguni, lies a submerged formation that has sparked a fierce debate for decades. Is it the ruins of a lost prehistoric civilization, a temple complex swallowed by the sea, or is it simply a spectacular freak of nature? This is the enigma of the Yonaguni monument. Discovered by a local diver in 1986, the structure lies about 16 feet below the ocean surface. What you see is a massive sandstone formation, roughly 165 feet long and 65 feet wide, rising dramatically from the seabed. Its most striking features are its stark, geometric lines. There are what appear to be massive, perfect staircases with sharply defined right angles and steps of near-uniform height. Vast, flat terraces connect to wide, straight avenues. There are two prominent pillars that look like they could have once supported a massive roof. Perhaps most tantalizing of all are formations that, to many observers, resemble carved figures, including a distinct turtle and a large, human-like face. For those who believe it is man-made, these features are simply too perfect to be random. Marine geologist Professor Masaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyus has been the primary champion of this theory. He points to the tool marks he believes are visible on the rock, the presence of what looks like a quarry nearby, and even smaller, seemingly arranged stones that resemble a primitive script. His conclusion is that this is the remnant of a vast city, perhaps the legendary lost continent of Mu, that sank beneath the Pacific Ocean in a catastrophic event over 10,000 years ago. If true, this would rewrite human history, pushing the timeline for advanced monument building back by thousands of years. However, the scientific mainstream offers a powerful counter-argument. Geologists like Robert Schoch of Boston University, who initially leaned towards a human origin, now largely attribute the monument to natural processes. Sandstone, they explain, has a natural tendency to fracture along straight planes due to its layered composition. The powerful underwater currents in the area, along with seismic activity, could have eroded the rock along these natural fault lines, creating the stunningly geometric shapes we see. The staircases could be the result of parts of the rock shearing off in perfectly straight segments. The carved faces are likely pareidolia, the human brain's natural tendency to see familiar patterns in random shapes. The debate ultimately hinges on a single, crucial question. Where is the undeniable evidence of human intervention? Mainstream archaeologists ask for clear artifacts, tools, pottery, or burial remains that are consistently found in and around man-made ancient sites. While Professor Kimura has pointed to some small stones with markings, these findings are hotly contested and not widely accepted as proof. Without such corroborating evidence, the official scientific record classifies Yonaguni as a beautiful and fascinating example of natural architecture. Yet, the monument's power lies in its ambiguity. Diving among its colossal platforms and sharp-angled terraces, it is incredibly difficult to accept that nature alone is responsible. The scale and regularity of the features create an overwhelming sense of being in a place that was designed, a feeling that pure geology struggles to erase. Whether a natural wonder or a sunken temple from a forgotten age, the Yonaguni monument stands as a haunting, silent sentinel in the deep, a permanent invitation to wonder what secrets still lie hidden beneath the world's oceans. From the haunting underwater mystery of Yonaguni, we emerge onto the windswept coast of Brittany in northwestern France, to a site that is no less enigmatic but far more expansive. Here, on a stretch of land near the village of Karnak, lies one of the most breathtaking and bewildering prehistoric landscapes in all of Europe. This is not a single temple, but a vast, open-air sanctuary composed of thousands of megaliths arranged with a purpose that has been utterly lost to time. The Karnak alignments are a monumental puzzle on an almost unimaginable scale. Picture this, not just a few dozen stones like at Stonehenge, but over 3,000 individual menhirs or standing stones, meticulously arranged in long, parallel rows that march across the countryside for more than 4 kilometers. The largest stones at the western end of the complex stand over 4 meters tall, and they gradually decrease in size as the rows progress eastward, like a giant staircase slowly descending into the earth. The alignments are grouped into 3 main sections: Mainek, Kermario, and Kerleskan, each a dense forest of granite pillars that from above look like regiments of stone soldiers frozen in formation for eternity. One of the most compelling mysteries of Karnak is what is conspicuously absent. Unlike nearly every other major megalithic site in Europe, archaeologists have found very little evidence of burials here. There are no great mounds covering passage graves, no chambers filled with skeletal remains. This crucial detail shatters the conventional assumption that such ancient stone circles were primarily cemeteries. Karnak seems to have been built for the living, not the dead. It was a place of ceremony, of gathering, of connection, but connection to what? This void of evidence has been filled by a rich tapestry of local myth and legend. One of the most enduring tales tells of Cornelius, a pagan pope who was fleeing Roman soldiers. With his back to the sea, he turned and transformed the entire pursuing army into lines of stone, forever trapping them in the landscape. Another legend suggests the stones are a Roman legion turned to stone by the wizard Merlin himself. More fantastical folklore claims the stones are aligned so that they cannot be counted. If you succeed, the stones will instantly move and your count will be lost. These stories, while charming, are clearly attempts by later cultures to explain something whose original meaning had already faded into obscurity centuries before. Modern scientific theories are just as fascinating, if less magical. The most widely accepted idea is that Karnak was a colossal astronomical observatory or calendar. The precise alignments of the rows correspond to the rising and setting of the sun and moon at key points in the year, particularly the solstices. It may have served as a gigantic agricultural computer, its shadows and sightlines helping a Neolithic society track the seasons for planting and harvest. Other researchers propose it was a sacred boundary, a liminal space separating the everyday world from a domain of spirits and deities, where rituals were performed to ensure fertility and prosperity. Some even suggest the arrangement could have an acoustic purpose, designed to amplify sound or create specific resonant frequencies during ceremonies. Despite decades of meticulous archaeological work, the fundamental questions remain stubbornly unanswered. we do not know the name of the culture that erected them. They left no written records, no carvings on the stones to hint at their beliefs. The dating of the site is also complex and debated, with construction believed to have occurred over many centuries, starting around 4500 BC. This places its origin squarely in the late Stone Age, a time of tremendous change when hunter-gatherers were first becoming settled farmers. The scale of the project implies a highly organized society with a shared vision, yet they vanished, leaving behind only this silent, sprawling monument. The Karnak stones stand not as a ruin but as a permanent question. They are a testament to a universal human drive to mark the land, to reach for the heavens, and to create something so enduring that its meaning would become a mystery even to the descendants of its builders. Now let's journey to the heart of the Mediterranean, to the small island nation of Malta, where another profound mystery lies not on a hilltop or a plain but deep underground. Welcome to the Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, a word that literally means underground in Greek. This is not a temple built from stacked stones. It is a sanctuary carved in reverse, painstakingly hollowed out from the solid limestone bedrock over many centuries, beginning around 3600 BC. It is a world turned inside out, a three-level labyrinth descending 30 feet into the earth, and it represents the apex of a culture that remains almost entirely unknown to us. The sheer ambition of the Hypogeum is staggering. This was no simple cave. It is an intricate architectural marvel that mimics the above-ground megalithic temples found elsewhere on Malta. The builders carved out grand halls, burial chambers, and ceremonial spaces, complete with stone altars, arched ceilings, and even false doors etched into the walls, replicating the temples of the living for the realm of the dead. The craftsmanship is breathtaking. They used simple stone, antler, and obsidian tools to create smooth, finished walls and perfectly rounded holes that likely held torches or oil lamps, illuminating the darkness for the rituals that took place there. This was a massive, multi-generational undertaking, a sacred project that would have required not just incredible effort, but a sophisticated understanding of engineering and design to ensure the fragile ceilings didn't collapse. But the true wonder of the Hypogeum and its most enduring mystery is found in a specific chamber known as the Oracle Room. This small, egg-shaped cell possesses an acoustic property so precise and so powerful it seems to defy coincidence. If you speak in a deep, resonant voice into a specific niche in the wall, the sound doesn't just echo, it amplifies and transforms. A low vibration becomes an all-encompassing hum that reverberates through the entire chamber and beyond, felt in the bones as much as it is heard by the ears. This sonic effect is unnervingly powerful, creating an atmosphere that is both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. The vibration is believed to resonate at a frequency that can alter brainwave patterns, potentially inducing states of trance, meditation, or heightened suggestibility. It is impossible to believe this was an accident. The architecture of the niche and the chamber's shape are perfectly tuned to create this phenomenon. This suggests the people who built the Hypogeum possessed a profound, almost scientific understanding of sound wave propagation and resonance, thousands of years before the physics of sound were formally defined. This was likely the heart of their rituals. A priest or shaman could have used this sonic tool to make the very stones themselves seem to speak, their voice booming through the complex as if issued by the Earth Mother Goddess they worshipped. It was the ultimate special effect, a technological divinity designed to unite the community in a shared, powerful spiritual experience. The enigma of these people is further deepened by the discoveries made within the Hypogeum's burial chambers. When the site was first discovered by accident in 1902 by construction workers, it was found to contain the remains of an estimated 7,000 individuals. Among these bones were a number of skulls that were distinctly abnormal. They were dramatically elongated, with enlarged cranial vaults that bore no signs of the disease or head-binding practices seen in other ancient cultures. These skulls are so unusual that they have fueled speculation for decades. Were they a distinct ethnic group, a priestly caste, or do they represent something even more mysterious? Mainstream anthropology suggests they are likely the result of a now lost cultural practice, but the complete lack of any other evidence leaves the question open. And that is the ultimate frustration of the Hypogeum, the complete and total silence of its builders. They left no written records, no carvings that clearly narrate their beliefs, and no obvious depictions of themselves. We don't know what they called themselves or how their society was structured. We only know they vanished suddenly around 2500 BC, leaving their incredible temples and this subterranean masterpiece behind. The Hypogeum stands as a monument to a spiritual and technological sophistication that appears, flourishes, and disappears without a trace, leaving behind only a whispering, resonant chamber to testify to their genius. It is a ghost in the archaeological record, a silent echo of a culture that mastered the very voice of the earth. Leaving the resonant chambers of Malta behind, we now voyage to one of the most remote and awe-inspiring places on Earth, a tiny, wind-swept volcanic island in the vast expanse of the southeastern Pacific Ocean. This is Rapa Nui, better known to the world as Easter Island, and it is home to one of humanity's most captivating and cautionary mysteries, the Moai. For centuries, these giant stone figures have stood as silent, stoic sentinels, their inscrutable gazes fixed inward across the land, but to focus solely on the heads is to miss the true story. These majestic statues are not merely heads, they are full-body figures, most buried up to their shoulders in sediment, and they are not freestanding monuments. Each one was originally erected upon a massive, ceremonial platform called an ahu, which served as the sacred temple and social heart of the island's communities. The ahu platforms are architectural marvels in their own right. Constructed with dry stone walling techniques, they were built with meticulously fitted basalt stones without any mortar, reminiscent of the incredible precision seen in Inca masonry thousands of miles away. These were not simple bases, they were the center of all spiritual and communal life. Upon the ahu, the islanders performed rituals, made offerings, and honored their deified ancestors, represented by the moai that stood upon them. The largest of these platforms, Ahu Tongariki, stretches an astonishing 220 feet long and cradles 15 massive moai, the heaviest of which weighs a staggering 86 tons. The scale of ambition is almost incomprehensible for a culture that, at its peak, likely numbered less than 15,000 people. This brings us to the central mystery that has puzzled explorers and archaeologists for centuries. How did they do it? How did a Stone Age society, completely isolated from the rest of the world, without metal tools, wheels, or draft animals, transport these multi-ton giants across miles of rugged terrain and then erect them with such precision? The moai were quarried from the volcanic rock of the Rono Raraku crater. Using only stone hand chisels known as toki, teams of craftsmen would painstakingly carve the statues directly from the mountainside, a single moai taking a team of 6 men over a year to complete. Once freed, the statue would be carefully moved down the steep crater slope. The most accepted theory for the transport across the island is that the Rapa Nui people walked them. Using a system of ropes, levers, and a rocking motion, teams would have maneuvered the statues upright and then, in a carefully coordinated effort, literally walked them for miles to their final ahu platforms. This method, demonstrated in successful experiments, would have required incredible skill, coordination, and a deep understanding of physics. Another theory suggests the use of a wooden sledge or sledges pulled along log rollers, a method that would have consumed vast quantities of the island's precious timber. And this leads to the second, even more profound mystery, the collapse. When European explorers first arrived on Easter Sunday in 1722, they found a society in a state of apparent decline. Many of the moai had been toppled from their ahu, often face down as if in a final act of defiance or despair. the truth behind this societal collapse is a complex and sobering tale. For generations, the dominant narrative was one of ecocide, that the Rapa Nui people recklessly deforested their entire island to use logs as rollers for the statues, leading to catastrophic soil erosion, the loss of seafaring canoes, famine, and a brutal descent into warfare and cannibalism. It became a parable of human selfishness and environmental ruin. However, newer archaeological evidence paints a more nuanced and tragic picture. It suggests that the islanders were brilliant adapters, using rock gardens to nourish the soil and sustaining a considerable population. The true death knell for their civilization may have been the arrival of Europeans. Slave raids in the 1800s decimated the population, and new diseases to which they had no immunity wiped out countless others. Before this contact, they were already a society under immense pressure, but they were likely on a path of adaptation, not self-destruction. The toppling of the Moai may not have been an act of resource-blind anger, but a deliberate ritual dismantling of the old ancestor-based power structure during a time of intense social upheaval and a shift towards a new birdman cult. The Moai and their Ahu temples stand today not just as a mystery of engineering, but as a powerful, poignant monument to the fragility of isolation and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable challenges. But to truly grasp the engineering insanity of Baalbek, we must leave the Roman temple behind and venture just a short distance to a nearby quarry. Here lies the true crown jewel of the mystery, a stone so colossal it defies all logic and frames the entire Baalbek complex in a new, even more mysterious light. This is the stone of the pregnant woman, a single, monstrous block of limestone that was never quite freed from the bedrock. Its measurements are the stuff of legend, 69 feet long, 16 feet wide, and 14 feet high. Modern estimates place its weight at a staggering 1,000 tons. To put that incomprehensible number into perspective, that is the equivalent of 250 full-grown African elephants, or 3 fully loaded Boeing 747 jumbo jets. It is the largest known stone ever cut by human hands in the ancient world. The Romans, masters of engineering that they were, never moved anything even remotely close to this size. Their largest obelisks, transported across the Mediterranean on massive ships, weighed around 350 tons. The idea that they would quarry a 1,000-ton block only to leave it sitting in the quarry makes no sense. The stone of the pregnant woman and a second, even larger block discovered more recently nearby, nicknamed the Stone of the South, which weighs an estimated 1,650 tons, suggests a far more ancient and advanced origin for the platform. It appears the Romans found this cyclopean foundation already in place, a ready-made, impossibly strong base left by a much older, unknown civilization, and simply built their own temple on top of it. This theory is supported by the fact that the massive stones of the Trilithon are of a different, older limestone than the Roman stones above them. The Romans were brilliant builders, but they were also practical. They would have seen the immense strategic and spiritual value of building upon such an pre-existing, awe-inspiring foundation. So if not the Romans, then who, and more importantly, how? How do you extract a 1,000-ton block from a quarry using only bronze or stone tools? How do you transport it even a single inch, let alone the nearly a mile to the Acropolis, without it sinking into the earth? The standard explanation of wooden rollers would simply splinter into dust under such an unimaginable weight. Even with today's technology, moving the stone of the pregnant woman would require a custom-built, multi-million-dollar vehicle and a meticulously prepared route. This has led to a wide range of theories, from the idea that the builders possessed a lost knowledge of anti-gravity or harmonic sound levitation, to the use of some form of advanced concrete or geopolymer that was poured into place, though geological analysis confirms the stones are solid, quarried limestone. The most plausible, yet still incredibly difficult to prove, theory involves an immense workforce using a complex system of ropes, levers, and counterweights, moving the stone inches per day on a specially constructed causeway that was lubricated with water or clay. But the sheer scale of the operation, and the fact that no such method has ever been demonstrated on a stone of this size, leaves the question wide open. The foundation of Baalbek stands as the ultimate cold case in archaeological engineering, a silent, megalithic question mark that challenges our entire understanding of the ancient world's capabilities. From the colossal stones of Baalbek, we now travel to the sun-drenched coast of southeastern India, where a different kind of mystery lies just beneath the waves. Here in the town of Mahabalipuram, an ancient legend whispered for over 1,000 years spoke of a magnificent city so beautiful it angered the gods. The story tells of 7 glorious pagodas or temples that gleamed along the shore, but in a fit of divine jealousy, the gods sent a great flood, swallowing 6 of the temples into the sea, leaving only one on land as a testament to what was lost. For generations, this was considered a charming folktale, a mythic explanation for the incredible stone architecture that dotted the coastline. But in December of 2004, the legend became terrifyingly, tragically real. The Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami was one of the deadliest natural disasters in recorded history. As the colossal waves receded from the coast of Tamil Nadu, they pulled back a curtain that had been closed for centuries. Locals and researchers were stunned to see the exposed seabed now revealed a series of large man-made structures. There were rows of rectangular blocks, the distinct remains of collapsed walls, and the unmistakable outlines of temple foundations. The ocean had momentarily given up its secret, confirming what the folklore had insisted all along. There was a sunken city offshore. This accidental discovery triggered a formal marine archaeological investigation, which used sonar and diving expeditions to map the ocean floor. What they found was breathtaking, not just a few scattered rocks, but a vast complex of submerged ruins spread over several square miles. The investigations revealed structures dating back to at least the 7th century AD, during the peak of the Pallava dynasty, who were known as master architects and sculptors. The underwater ruins include a large, horseshoe-shaped enclosure, a fallen wall nearly 200 feet long, and numerous stone blocks and pillars, all stylistically consistent with the known Pallava temples on shore. But the true enigma lies in the timing and the cause of the submergence. Geological evidence suggests that this coastline has been prone to significant tectonic activity for millennia. The current theory is that a series of major earthquakes, not a single cataclysmic event, gradually caused the land to sink over hundreds of years, slowly drowning the temples until they were completely forgotten, surviving only in myth. This raises a profound question about the nature of human knowledge. The Pallava dynasty is a known historical civilization. We have their inscriptions, their art, and their glorious shore temple. They are not an unknown builder in the same sense as the creators of Göbekli Tepe. Their mystery is one of scale and memory. How extensive was their port city of Mahabalipuram really? Did they build a much larger complex than we ever credited them for, a significant portion of which now lies underwater? And if so, how did the precise memory of its existence fade from history, surviving for over a millennium only in the form of a folk tale? The underwater temples of Mahabalipuram stand as a powerful lesson. They teach us that sometimes the most fantastical legends are not mere stories, but are oral histories, garbled and mythologized over time, pointing directly to a truth that was waiting for the right moment to be rediscovered. Deep beneath the sands of Egypt, far from the well-trodden paths of Giza, lies a mystery that challenges the very timeline of ancient history. In the sacred city of Abydos, home to the magnificent temple of Seti I, a subterranean structure defies all conventional explanation. This is the Osirian, an enigmatic underground temple that feels utterly alien compared to everything else built by the pharaohs. while Seti's temple above is a masterpiece of classic New Kingdom architecture adorned with breathtaking reliefs and hieroglyphs. The structure buried beside it is something else entirely. It is a stark, monumental, and brutalist work of engineering that appears to belong to a different age, built by a different hand. Reached by a long, descending passageway, the Osirian opens into a haunting, water-filled hall. At its heart lies a central platform surrounded by 10 massive, square granite pillars, each weighing over 100 tons. These pillars support equally gigantic stone lintels, creating a colonnade that frames a deep, rectangular pool of water. The style is megalithic, defined by its sheer, minimalist scale and staggering weight. The stones are bare, devoid of the intricate carvings and inscriptions that cover every surface of the temple above. The construction technique is a complete anomaly. Instead of the relatively smaller, well-dressed blocks typical of Egyptian temples, the Osirian is built with cyclopean blocks of red sandstone and granite, fitted together with a precision that seems both ancient and advanced. The corners are sharp, the joints are tight, and the overall aesthetic is one of raw, overwhelming power. The official archaeological narrative attributes its construction to Pharaoh Seti I in the 13th century BC, intended as a symbolic tomb for the god Osiris. The surrounding water was meant to represent the primordial waters of creation from which the mound of existence first arose. This explanation, however, is plagued by contradictions. Why would the same pharaoh use two completely different, incompatible architectural styles simultaneously? The Temple of Seti is refined and ornate, a celebration of artistic achievement. The Osirian is primal and austere, a testament to unimaginable effort and a completely different engineering philosophy. It looks less like a New Kingdom monument and more like something from the age of the Great Pyramid, or even older. This has led many researchers to propose a far more radical theory. The Osirian is not a New Kingdom construction at all, but a pre-existing structure that Seti I simply discovered and incorporated into his own temple complex. The evidence for this is compelling. Geologists have noted that the sedimentary layers around the Osirian's foundation show signs of massive water erosion, suggesting the structure was already ancient and had been submerged for long periods before Seti's reign. Furthermore, the architectural parallels are striking. The Osirian's megalithic style, with its stark, minimalist design and immense, precisely fitted blocks, bears a much stronger resemblance to the Valley Temple at Giza or the Sphinx Temple than anything from the New Kingdom. It seems to be a relic from the same mysterious school of unimaginably ancient engineering. If this theory is correct, it opens a door to a profound historical mystery. Who built it and when? Some suggest it could be a surviving fragment from the early dynastic period or even the mythical first time, the Tepe, when the gods were said to have ruled Egypt. Others look even further back, proposing it is a remnant of a lost civilization that existed before a great cataclysm, a culture with advanced knowledge of stoneworking that was later emulated but never quite duplicated by the dynastic Egyptians. The Osirian stands as a silent, waterlogged sentinel from a forgotten age, a piece of architectural bedrock that simply does not fit the established story. It forces us to wonder how much of history is still buried, not just under the sand, but under the weight of our own assumptions. Yet another civilization that mastered the impossible with stone emerges from the vastness of the Pacific. Far from the coasts of India and the deserts of Egypt, on the remote island of Pohnpei in Micronesia, lies what might be the most logistically baffling ancient city of all, Nan Madol. This is not a single temple, but an entire ceremonial metropolis built not on solid ground, but atop a network of 92 artificial islands crisscrossed by a series of tidal canals. This has earned it the evocative nickname, the Venice of the Pacific. But to compare it to a European city of romance is to undersell its otherworldly, almost sinister grandeur. Nan Madol is a place of dark basalt and deep mystery, a city of ghosts constructed from an estimated 750,000 tons of stone. The first thing that strikes you is the material. The entire complex is built from columnar basalt, a volcanic rock that naturally forms into massive geometric crystals with 5 or 6 sides like a pile of monstrous pencils. The builders of Nan Madol didn't quarry ordinary blocks. They somehow harvested these gigantic prismatic logs of stone. The largest of these basalt columns weigh up to 50 tons each. They were then transported from quarries on the opposite side of the island, a journey that involved navigating dense jungle, treacherous mountains, and finally, open water to reach the reef where the city was being constructed. The scale of the labor is beyond comprehension. We are talking about moving the equivalent of the Great Pyramid's worth of stone, but across far more difficult terrain, by a population that likely never exceeded 30,000 people. How was this achieved? The local oral history provides an answer that is as fascinating as it is frustrating for archaeologists. The legends say Nan Madol was constructed by 2 wizard brothers, Olasipa and Olasopa, who had come from a mythical land in the west. Using their magical powers, they are said to have levitated the enormous stones through the air, guiding them effortlessly into place. When the older brother died, the younger one became the first Sordelor, or Lord of Delor, founding a dynasty that ruled from this impenetrable aquatic capital for centuries. For the people of Pohnpei, the explanation is simple: magic. For modern science, this is an infuriating dead end. Despite extensive archaeological work, not a single trace of the tools, sledges, rollers, or lever systems used to move this incredible tonnage of stone has ever been found. It is as if the city simply materialized. The purpose of Nan Madol is slightly clearer, though no less awe-inspiring. It was a ceremonial and political center, a place reserved for the ruling elite and the priests. Commoners lived on the main island, looking out at the forbidden city on the water with a mixture of fear and reverence. The most impressive structure is the mortuary temple of Nan Dawas, with walls towering nearly 25 feet high. Here, the Sordelor dynasty performed rituals and were eventually entombed. The entire complex, with its narrow canals and high walls, feels less like a city and more like a fortress designed to separate the god-kings from their subjects, both physically and spiritually. The mystery deepens with the city's abrupt and tragic end. Around the 1600s, the Sordelor dynasty was overthrown by a rebellion, sparked by the legendary cruelty and oppression of the last ruler. According to tradition, the conqueror, Hypogeum, then placed a curse on Nan Madol, declaring it a forbidden place. To this day, many locals will not go there after dark, believing it to be haunted by the spirits of the old kings. This cultural taboo, combined with the complete absence of any written records or construction plans, has allowed Nan Madol to guard its secrets fiercely. It stands as a silent, sprawling monument to a forgotten kingdom, a testament to an engineering prowess that borders on the supernatural, leaving us to wonder if the legends of flying stones hold a kernel of a truth we have yet to understand. High in the Peruvian Andes, nestled within the breathtaking Sacred Valley, lies the fortress temple of Ollantaytambo. While often overshadowed by the wonder of Machu Picchu, this site holds its own profound and deeply puzzling secrets. The entire complex is an architectural marvel, but one section in particular stops archaeologists and engineers in their tracks: the Temple of the Sun, or more precisely, the massive, unfinished wall that was intended to be its foundation. Here we find 6 colossal monoliths of rose rhyolite, each standing over 13 feet tall, weighing approximately 50 tons, and fitted together with a precision that seems to defy the very nature of stone itself. The first mystery is the quarry itself. These enormous blocks were not sourced locally. They were hauled from a mountain quarry located on the opposite side of the valley, across the treacherous Yorubamba River and up a steep mountainside. The journey is a straight-line distance of nearly 4 miles, but the actual route, navigating the uneven valley floor and the steep ascent to the temple site, would have been significantly longer and far more arduous. The logistics of moving 50-ton stones up and down mountain paths without the wheel, without draft animals stronger than the llama, and without iron tools is a puzzle that has never been satisfactorily solved. The conventional theory of hundreds of workers pulling the stones on log rollers struggles to account for the steep inclines and the sheer weight involved. But the transportation is only half the mystery. The real enigma lies in the stonework itself. When you examine the joining faces of these megaliths, you don't see the clean, sharp chisel marks typical of stone masonry. Instead, the surfaces appear oddly melted, molded, or softened, as if the stone was once pliable like clay or plasticine and then hardened back into its current form. The edges are not perfectly squared. They have a subtle, almost organic flow to them. The blocks fit together so tightly that, in many places, you cannot insert the thinnest piece of paper or a razor blade between them. This is a technique known as ashlar masonry, but the perfection achieved at Ollantaytambo is on a level far beyond even the finest Inca walls in Cusco. This has led to a fascinating and heated debate. How was this achieved? Mainstream archaeology attributes it to the incredible skill of the Inca stonemasons, who used stone hammers, bronze tools, and an endless supply of sand and water for grinding and polishing. They would have painstakingly pounded the stone for generations, slowly shaping each block to perfectly mirror its neighbor. This is a plausible, though almost unimaginably patient explanation. However, other researchers point to peculiarities that challenge this view. Some of the stone surfaces show signs of vitrification, a process where the outer surface of the rock has been melted into a glass-like finish. This is not something that can be achieved by pounding with stone hammers. It requires intense, focused heat far beyond what a simple wood fire could produce. This has given rise to more speculative theories. Did the builders possess some form of lost technology? Could they have used a plant-based chemical compound that temporarily softened the stone, allowing them to mold it into shape? There are local legends that speak of a mysterious plant juice that could make stones soft, or, as some more controversial theorists suggest, was a form of advanced ancient machinery or even energy-based tools used to work the stone. The site adds another layer of mystery with its obvious state of abandonment. The wall was never finished. Massive blocks, some even larger than those in place, are still scattered at the base of the temple platform and remain at the quarry, as if the project was suddenly and catastrophically halted. This has led to speculation that the entire complex might be far older than the Inca, who merely found it and built their own structures on top of the existing megalithic foundation, much like at Baalbek. The Temple of the Sun at Ollantaytambo stands as a monumental question mark. It is a place where the stone itself seems to whisper of a forgotten knowledge, a technology so advanced that it appears to us not as machinery but as magic. Now we leave the sun-drenched Andean peaks for the cool, dark depths of central Turkey, descending into one of the most astonishing and claustrophobic wonders of the ancient world. Deep beneath the rocky landscape of Cappadocia lies Derinkuyu, an entire subterranean city carved not just as a simple refuge, but as a vast, multi-level metropolis capable of sheltering up to 20,000 people. This is not a mere cave or a single tunnel. It is an 18-story deep architectural marvel, a labyrinthine complex that includes homes, stables, wineries, communal kitchens, and most intriguingly, its own places of worship, temples and churches hidden from the world above. The sheer scale of Derinkuyu is difficult to comprehend until you stand within it. The city plunges nearly 280 feet into the volcanic tuff rock, a soft, easily workable stone that hardens upon exposure to air. But easily workable is a relative term. The excavation of this space represents the removal of an estimated 1 million cubic meters of rock. That is a volume of material that would form a mountain of its own. The city was designed with meticulous planning. It had over 600 entrances, all cleverly hidden in the courtyards of surface dwellings. Massive, rolling stone doors weighing up to half a ton each could seal each level from the inside, protecting the inhabitants from any threat that managed to find its way in. The engineering sophistication is what truly defies belief for a structure of such immense antiquity, with parts of it dating back to at least the 8th century BC. Derinkuyu boasts a breathtaking 52 ventilation shafts that provide fresh air to even the deepest levels. These are not simple holes, they are sophisticated engineering projects that connect the city to the surface at precise intervals. A dedicated, protected water well plunging over 170 feet deep, tapped into an underground aquifer, ensuring a constant supply of fresh water even during a prolonged siege. The city had everything needed for long-term survival, from wine and oil presses to kitchens with carved-out hearths that cleverly channeled smoke through concealed chimneys so as not to reveal the city's location from the surface. At the heart of this underground world, and central to our mystery, are its sacred spaces. On the second level, archaeologists have identified a large, barrel-vaulted chamber with a high ceiling, unmistakably designed as a missionary school. Further down on the 7th level lies a spacious cruciform church, its layout clearly identifying it as a place of Christian worship. This presents a fascinating historical puzzle. While the city was expanded and used extensively by early Christians, particularly during the Byzantine era to hide from Arab raids, its origins are far older. The Hittites are known to have carved into this soft rock as far back as 2000 BC, and some researchers suggest the initial, deepest levels could be Phrygian, dating to 1,000 years before that. This leads to the central, haunting question: who began this monumental project, and how did they manage it without leaving a single blueprint, written plan, or detailed account of its construction? The complete absence of records is deafening. This was not the work of a few families digging a cellar. This was a public works project on a colossal scale, requiring generations of coordinated labor, advanced geological surveys to avoid cave-ins, and a master plan that had to account for structural integrity, ventilation, hydrology, and waste management. The logistical coordination needed to excavate 18 floors down, ensuring each level was supported and the ventilation shafts aligned perfectly, implies a level of architectural knowledge that we simply do not attribute to those early eras. The mystery is compounded by the fact that the builders left no trace of their methods. Where is the rubble from 1 million cubic meters of excavated rock? It was likely used for other construction above ground, but no specific structures have been definitively linked to it. How did they light the deep, pitch-black corridors to continue their work? How did they communicate between levels? The city stands as a silent testament to a forgotten chapter of human ingenuity, a project so vast and complex that its very existence forces us to reconsider the organizational capabilities and technological savvy of our ancient ancestors. Derinkuyu is more than a hidden city. It is a monument to resilience, a subterranean ark built by a people whose name and story are lost to the very earth they sought refuge within. Yet another civilization that mastered stone on a breathtaking scale emerges not from the deserts or jungles, but from the high plateau of southern Africa. In the modern nation that now bears its name lie the ruins of Great Zimbabwe, a city of stone that was the heart of a vast and powerful empire. For centuries, European explorers who stumbled upon these ruins refused to believe the evidence before their own eyes. The sheer sophistication and grandeur of the structures so conflicted with their prejudiced views of African capabilities that they invented fantastical origins, crediting everyone from the Queen of Sheba to Phoenician traders. The truth, however, is far more impressive. This was the achievement of the Shona people, a sophisticated indigenous culture that built the largest stone complex in all of sub-Saharan Africa. The most striking feature of Great Zimbabwe is its architecture, specifically the massive dry stone walls. This technique involves stacking carefully shaped granite blocks without any mortar whatsoever to bind them together. The stability of the walls relies entirely on the impeccable precision of the stone cutting and the genius of the design. The builders possessed an intuitive, masterful understanding of physics and balance. The walls are not straight, they curve and slope gracefully, a design that not only adds to their visual grandeur but also provides immense structural integrity, allowing them to withstand centuries of weather and time. The most famous section is the Great Enclosure, whose outer wall is a breathtaking curve of stone over 800 feet long and in places rising 36 feet high. The stones are fitted so tightly that even today you cannot slide a knife blade between them. The construction required an enormous, organized labor force and a deep reservoir of architectural knowledge passed down through generations. But Great Zimbabwe was far more than just a well-built fortress. It was a thriving economic and spiritual center. At its peak between the 11th and 15th centuries, it was the capital of a kingdom that controlled a vast network of trade routes stretching from the African interior all the way to the coasts of the Indian Ocean. Archaeologists have unearthed artifacts from across the known world: Persian pottery, Chinese celadon dishes, Arab coins, and glass beads. This was the heart of a gold trading empire, a place of immense wealth and cosmopolitan influence. The city itself could have housed up to 18,000 people, making it one of the largest urban centers of its era. The spiritual life of its inhabitants is etched into the stone itself. The entire complex reveals a profound and advanced understanding of astronomy. The layout of the structures, the positioning of towers and doorways, and even the iconic conical tower within the Great Enclosure are all meticulously aligned with celestial events. The most significant alignment is with the rising of the moon and certain bright stars and planets, which would have been crucial for marking the seasons, dictating agricultural cycles, and governing religious ceremonies. A famous example is a monolith placed atop a sacred platform that perfectly frames the rising of the Southern Cross constellation at a specific time of year. This was not a random arrangement of rocks, it was a carefully engineered cosmic calendar, a temple complex designed to harmonize human activity with the rhythms of the heavens. This makes the historical denial of its origins all the more tragic and revealing. When European colonizers and explorers like Cecil Rhodes encountered these ruins in the late 19th century, their racism prevented them from accepting that indigenous Africans could have created such an advanced civilization. They propagated the myth that it must have been the work of a lost white race, or the biblical Ophir, or any other civilization they deemed sufficiently advanced. This deliberate erasure was not just an academic error, it was a political tool used to justify colonialism by painting the region as a land without history, ripe for the taking. It wasn't until after independence in 1980 that the modern nation of Zimbabwe could fully reclaim this magnificent symbol of its pre-colonial heritage, proudly placing an image of the soapstone bird sculptures found there on its national flag. Great Zimbabwe stands today not only as a monument to architectural and astronomical genius, but also as a powerful testament to the resilience of truth against the forces of prejudice. A silent stone repudiation of those who ever doubted the magnificence of African achievement. From the sprawling subterranean city of Derinkuyu, we now travel to the arid plains of Rajasthan in India, where another breathtaking descent into the earth awaits. But this is not a hidden city, it is a temple to water, a monumental staircase leading into the very heart of the desert. This is the Chand Bayori stepwell in the village of Apanari, and it is one of the most visually arresting and mathematically perplexing structures ever created by human hand. Imagine a perfectly geometric canyon, a vast inverted pyramid carved into the ground, with 3,500 steps arranged in a hypnotic, symmetrical cascade across 13 stories. It plunges 100 feet down to a murky green pool of water. This is not merely a well, it is a celestial staircase, a sacred crater, and an architectural puzzle all in one. The sheer scale and precision of Chand Baori is what first strikes you with a sense of awe. The entire structure is a perfect square, and the steps are arranged in a stunningly complex crisscross pattern of double staircases on three sides, all converging at the water below. The geometrical perfection is so absolute that it feels more like a modern optical illusion or a computer-generated model than a 1,000-year-old construction. Each step, each platform, each flight is perfectly aligned, creating a mesmerizing play of light and shadow that transforms throughout the day. This was not haphazard digging. It was a masterwork of engineering, designed with a profound understanding of mathematics, perspective, and volume. The builders had to calculate the precise angle and depth to ensure the stairs remained stable and that they would reliably reach the water table, which fluctuated with the seasons. The fact that it stands perfectly intact today is a testament to their genius. Yet, for all its grandeur and precise execution, the origins of Chand Baori are shrouded in complete mystery. There are no inscriptions, no carvings crediting a king or a dynasty, and no contemporary records that detail its construction. This is the central enigma. Such a colossal public works project, requiring immense resources and labor, simply appears in the historical record without a signature. The local tradition and later folklore attribute it to a legendary king named Roger Shanda of the Nikum dynasty, around the 8th or 9th century AD, hence the name Chand Baori. However, the Nikums are a semi-legendary dynasty themselves, with little concrete historical evidence to firmly place them in this region at that specific time. The architectural style offers some clues, suggesting a date between the 8th and 9th centuries, but it remains a best guess. The builders, their names, and their specific kingdom have vanished into the dusty pages of history, leaving behind only this monumental, silent well. This absence of records has naturally given rise to a wealth of theories about its true purpose. Of course, its primary function was practical. In the parched landscape of Rajasthan, water was life, and stepwells were ingenious inventions that provided access to groundwater for drinking, bathing, and irrigation, while also creating a cool, sheltered refuge from the blistering desert heat. But Chand Baori is so grand, so ornate, and so deliberately designed that it clearly transcended mere utility. On one side of the well, facing the steps, is a beautiful pavilion with ornate galleries and carved deities. This was a temple, a place of worship for the goddess of joy and happiness, Harshat Mata, whose own temple stands right beside the stepwell. The act of descending the steps to collect water was intertwined with ritual and prayer, making the everyday chore a sacred journey. Some historians have proposed that the stepwell's incredible depth and precise acoustics were designed to amplify the sounds of rituals, with chants and bells echoing powerfully off the hard stairs and walls, creating an immersive spiritual experience. Others see its incredible symmetry as a representation of cosmic order, a man-made geometrical marvel mirroring the perfect patterns of the universe. The very act of descending and ascending could be seen as a metaphorical path, a symbolic movement between the material world above and the spiritual, life-giving waters below. The mysterious builders of Chand Baori left no written philosophy, but they left their beliefs carved into the very earth, a testament to their devotion, their ingenuity, and their timeless understanding that survival and spirituality are forever intertwined. From the intricate stepwells of India, we journey east to a discovery so recent and so baffling that it feels like it should belong to the distant past, not the modern era. In 1992, in the Chinese province of Zhejiang, a farmer named Wu An made a decision that would unravel a mystery spanning millennia. He pooled his savings with other villagers to rent a water pump, determined to drain a small, local pond that never seemed to run dry. They believed it was bottomless, a deep pool of legend. After 17 days of continuous pumping, they did not find a deeper pond. Instead, they found a doorway into another world. The water had concealed the entrance to a massive, hand-carved subterranean grotto. This was the first of what we now know as the Longyu Caves, an underground complex of such staggering scale and impossible precision that it has left engineers and archaeologists utterly speechless. What they discovered was not a natural cavern. It was a colossal hall, an artificial space of breathtaking grandeur. To date, 36 such caves have been found, but they are believed to be part of a much larger, interconnected network still buried beneath the village and its surrounding fields. The statistics are difficult to comprehend. Each cave descends nearly 100 feet into the solid sandstone and mudstone bedrock. The total volume of rock excavated from these caves is estimated at a mind-numbing 30,000 cubic meters. To put that into perspective, that's enough removed stone to fill over 12 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And this was all accomplished over 2,000 years ago, around the time of the Qin or Han dynasties, using only rudimentary hand tools like chisels and hammers. The sheer manpower required for such an undertaking is almost beyond calculation, suggesting a project of national significance that would have required thousands of workers laboring for generations. Yet the scale is only the beginning of the mystery. It is the precision and the bizarre, uniform artistry that truly defies explanation. The walls and ceilings of every single chamber are not rough-hewn. They are covered from floor to ceiling in a continuous, flowing pattern of parallel chisel marks. These are not random strikes. They are perfectly uniform, with each mark maintaining a consistent 60-degree angle and a width of exactly 2.5 inches across. The pattern is so systematic, so machine-like in its regularity, that it appears to have been made by a single, giant mechanical device, not by countless individual workers swinging hammers over centuries. This uniform finish was clearly intentional, a deliberate aesthetic choice of monumental, almost obsessive effort. But why? Why go to such incredible lengths to decorate every single inch of these underground spaces with such a repetitive, labor-intensive pattern? It serves no structural purpose. The only conceivable explanation is that this was the intended final appearance, a specific look that held deep and now lost symbolic or spiritual meaning. This leads to the three great, unresolved puzzles of Longyu. First, the debris. Where did it all go? The removal of 30,000 cubic meters of rock would have created a small mountain of rubble. Yet there is no evidence of this spoil anywhere in the surrounding area. No massive mounds, no deep pits filled with waste stone. It has simply vanished. The second puzzle is the complete absence of any historical record. A project of this magnitude, which must have been sponsored by an emperor or an incredibly powerful ruler, is never mentioned in any Chinese chronicle, any local folk tale, or any ancient text. It is a historical ghost, a project so secret that its very existence was erased from memory. Third, there is the haunting question of purpose. What was this vast complex for? It shows no signs of habitation, no soot from fires, no carvings or inscriptions, no burial remains. It doesn't function well as a quarry. The decorative markings make no sense for simple mining. The most compelling theory is that it was a secret ceremonial complex, perhaps a subterranean temple or a ritual space for a cult whose beliefs were so esoteric they had to be practiced in absolute secrecy, hidden from the world above. The Longyu Caves stand as a silent, perfect, and utterly bewildering monument to a forgotten obsession, a secret so well kept that even the earth itself seemed to have forgotten it was there. But no journey into the world of ancient secrets would be complete without a visit to the sprawling metropolis in the highlands of Mexico, a city so grand that the Aztecs who discovered its ruins centuries later believed it could only have been built by gods. This is Teotihuacan, the city of the gods, and at its heart lies one of the most precisely engineered and spiritually charged temples in the Americas, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. Unlike the grand pyramids of the sun and moon that dominate the skyline, This smaller, intricately carved pyramid holds the key to the city's deepest mysteries, serving as a testament to a civilization of immense power and knowledge that vanished without leaving a single word to explain itself. The temple itself is a masterpiece of sacred geometry and deadly symbolism. Its facades are adorned with a series of stunning, alternating heads. One is the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl, a deity representing life, wisdom, and the sky. The other is a terrifying, goggle-eyed monster believed to be a precursor to the rain god Tlaloc or a fire serpent. This duality, creation and destruction, life and war, is the central theme of the entire structure. But the true genius of its builders is revealed not just in the carvings, but in the brutal offering found within. In the 1980s, archaeologists made a grisly discovery: mass graves surrounding the temple containing the skeletons of over 200 individuals, many of them wearing necklaces of human jawbones and their hands tied behind their backs. They were not prisoners of war, they were high-status soldiers and attendants, sacrificed in a single, catastrophic event to consecrate the temple, and perhaps to channel their life force into the very stones, binding the power of the gods to this sacred place. This dedication to precision extends to the temple's celestial alignment. The entire city of Teotihuacan is a giant astronomical map, laid out on a grid that is meticulously aligned to 15.5 degrees east of true north. This is no accident. This specific orientation aligns the city's main artery, the Street of the Dead, with the setting of the Pleiades star cluster on a key date in the Mesoamerican calendar. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent itself is precisely positioned to mark the sun's passage during the equinoxes. On these days, the play of light and shadow creates the illusion of a giant serpent slithering down the side of the pyramid, a breathtaking display of architectural and astronomical fusion that would have affirmed the priest's divine connection to the cosmos for all the city's inhabitants to see. And then, around the year 550 AD, it all stopped. The city that had housed over 100,000 people at its peak, making it one of the largest cities in the entire world at the time, was suddenly and completely abandoned. There is no evidence of a massive invasion, no layer of ash from a cataclysmic volcanic eruption, no signs of a prolonged drought that would have caused a sudden collapse. The leading theory points to internal strife, perhaps a devastating uprising by the lower classes against the ruling elite, a revolution so complete that it shattered the very social and religious order that held the city together. The temples were systematically desecrated, the statues of the gods smashed, and the great city was left to the elements. Its people simply walked away, dispersing into smaller communities, taking their knowledge and their stories with them. This is the ultimate frustration of Teotihuacan. We know the city intimately, its apartment compounds, its artwork, its trade routes, but we do not know its name. The Aztecs gave it the name we use today. We do not know what language its people spoke. Most critically, they left no written records. Unlike the Maya, who left detailed glyphs on their monuments, the Teotihuacanos communicated their history and beliefs through art and architecture alone. Their advanced mathematical principles, their profound understanding of acoustics within their temples, and the political structure that could command such a vast, multicultural city, all of this knowledge was passed down orally, and when the city fell, that thread was broken forever. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent stands as a silent stone question, a monument to a people who achieved greatness on a staggering scale but chose, or were forced, to take the secret of their name with them into the dust. Leaving the carved caverns of China and the silent gods of Mexico behind, we ascend to a place where the air is thin and the sky feels close enough to touch. We journey now to the roof of the world, to the vast, deep blue expanse of Lake Titicaca, straddling the border of Peru and Bolivia. This is the highest navigable lake on Earth, resting at a breathtaking 12,500 feet above sea level. For the local Aymara and Quechua people, this is not just a body of water, it is the birthplace of the sun, the moon, and the entire Inca civilization. But recent discoveries suggest the lake holds secrets far older than the Inca, secrets submerged in its icy, dark waters. Down there, hidden from the sun, lie the ruins of what appears to be a vast, ancient temple complex, a silent city claimed by the waves. The story of this discovery reads like an underwater adventure tale. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, an international team of archaeologists and divers, led by the renowned explorer Lorenzo Epes, began a systematic survey of the lake's depths. Using sonar and submersible cameras, they mapped the underwater landscape. What they found was not a collection of scattered rocks, but the unmistakable geometric outlines of human construction. Their most stunning find was a seemingly endless stone wall, a submerged terrace that stretches for over half a mile along the lake bed. This was not a natural geological formation. The sonar imagery revealed a structure built with large, precisely cut blocks, fitted together in a familiar, masterful style. Nearby, they discovered a paved road, a long terrace that could have been used for agriculture, and a stone altar, suggesting this was not a mere village but a ceremonial center of great importance. This immediately presents a fascinating geological puzzle. How did a temple end up at the bottom of a lake? The answer lies not in a sudden Atlantis-like cataclysm, but in the slow, powerful forces of tectonic activity. The entire Altiplano region, this high plateau in the Andes, is being slowly pushed upward by the subduction of the Nazca Plate beneath the South American plate. This colossal pressure doesn't just create mountains, it also causes the land to tilt. Scientists who have studied the lake's sediments and shoreline believe that over thousands of years, this tilting action caused the southern portion of the lake basin to sink while the northern edges rose. The temple complex, originally built on the shore, would have gradually slipped beneath the rising water level over centuries. This was not a single, dramatic flood, but a slow, inexorable drowning, a process that likely gave the inhabitants generations to abandon their sacred site to the encroaching lake. But who were these people who possessed the skill to build with such precision long before the Inca Empire ever rose to power? The most likely candidates are a shadowy, advanced civilization known as the Tiwanaku, whose influence once dominated the entire Titicaca Basin. Their capital city, Tiwanaku, located just south of the lake in modern-day Bolivia, is itself a monument to megalithic mystery. It features structures like the Acapana Pyramid and the famous Gate of the Sun, carved from single blocks of andesite weighing over 100 tons. The stonework at Tiwanaku displays the same hallmarks of expert craftsmanship seen in the underwater ruins. Perfectly cut stones that fit together without mortar, complex geometric shapes, and an advanced understanding of engineering. The dating of the underwater site is still a matter of debate, with estimates ranging from 1,000 to 2,000 years old, which would place its construction squarely within the zenith of Tiwanaku influence. It is compelling to imagine this underwater complex as a coastal outpost of that great empire, a sacred site where rituals were performed at the water's edge, little knowing the water itself would one day become its shroud. The implications of this discovery are profound. It suggests that the Tiwanaku culture, or perhaps an even older society that influenced them, was far more extensive and sophisticated than we previously understood. They were not just builders of a single great city, they were a people who sculpted their entire landscape, creating terraces, temples, and roads that reached out across the region. The underwater temple of Lake Titicaca adds a crucial, sunken chapter to the history of the Andes. It stands as a monument to a people who mastered their environment with incredible skill, only to have that very environment slowly, silently reclaim their work, preserving it in the cold, dark depths as a timeless secret waiting to be rediscovered. Our journey now takes us to the sun-drenched islands of Malta, a tiny archipelago in the heart of the Mediterranean that holds a secret so profound it rewrites the early chapters of human ambition. Here, scattered across the landscape, are the ruins of the Gewith, dot above Gantaja temples and a complex of other megalithic structures that are not merely old, they are ancient on a scale that is difficult to grasp. These temples were already weathered ruins when the builders of Stonehenge were first drawing their plans in the earth, and when the pharaohs of Egypt's old kingdom were just beginning to dream of their pyramids. Constructed beginning around 3600 BC, the temples of Malta represent the world's first freestanding stone buildings, a monumental leap in architecture that emerged from a society that, by all conventional logic, should not have been capable of such a feat. The name Gir, with dot above Gantaja itself meaning Giant's Tower in Maltese, speaks to the awe these structures have inspired for millennia. Local folklore claimed they were built by a race of giants, and when you stand before them, it is easy to understand why. The complex consists of two vast temples, each a cloverleaf-shaped arrangement of semicircular chambers or apses, all enclosed within a massive outer wall. The scale of the stones used is staggering. The largest megaliths forming the temple's outer shell weigh over 50 tons and stand nearly 20 feet tall. To put that into perspective, that is the equivalent of a full-sized school bus, hewn from solid Globigerina limestone and moved into place by a Neolithic society that had not yet discovered metal tools, the wheel, or even pottery. They possessed only stone, wood, antler, and their own immense collective will. The mystery of how they achieved this begins at the quarries. The soft Globigerina limestone was relatively easy to cut compared to harder rocks, but the process was still one of immense, patient labor. Using stone mauls and wedges made from harder coralline limestone, along with levers and ropes likely made from animal hide or plant fibers, they would have painstakingly separated these colossal blocks from the bedrock. The transportation of these multi-ton monoliths is the next great puzzle. Without wheels or draft animals, the most plausible theory involves a system of log rollers, ropes, and an enormous coordinated human effort. Teams of hundreds would have slowly inched each block along a lubricated track of clay and water, using wooden sledges and levers to navigate the gentle slopes between the quarry and the temple sites. It was a project that would have required a powerful, unifying belief system to motivate such a vast expenditure of effort over generations. But the true wonder of these temples lies not just in their scale, but in their sophisticated design. These were not crude piles of rock. They exhibit a remarkable understanding of architecture and aesthetics. The walls curve inward as they rise, a technique that provides greater stability and is echoed in later classical architecture. The interiors were once roofed, likely with corbelled vaults made of progressively overlapping stones. The builders carved intricate altars, libation holes for liquid offerings, and curious oracle holes, perhaps used for ritual communication. The temples are precisely oriented towards the south and east, and many feature alignments with the equinoxes and the rising of specific stars like Sirius, indicating they served as both places of worship and sophisticated celestial calendars for an agricultural society. This leads us to the most haunting and enduring mystery of the Maltese temples, the people who built them. For over 1,000 years, this culture flourished in isolation on these small islands, dedicating immense resources to their temple-building project. They developed a unique artistic style, creating beautiful corpulent figurines, often called fat ladies, believed to represent a mother goddess or a symbol of fertility. Then, around 2500 BC, this vibrant, innovative, and highly organized society simply vanished. There is no evidence of a massive invasion, a devastating plague, or a catastrophic environmental collapse. The most likely explanation points to a slower, more tragic decline, perhaps due to overpopulation exhausting the limited resources of the small islands, leading to famine and social fragmentation, compounded by a prolonged period of drought. Their society crumbled from within, and the islands appear to have been abandoned for centuries. The temples of Malta stand as a poignant and powerful monument to this ghost civilization. We do not know what they called themselves. They left no written records, no royal inscriptions to boast of their achievements. All we have are their silent, stoic temples, the oldest freestanding structures on Earth, built by a people whose name is lost to history, but whose incredible ambition and devotion are forever etched into the limestone landscape. They achieved the impossible with little more than stone and determination, only to disappear without a trace, leaving behind a legacy of stone that continues to mystify and inspire. Nestled in the heart of the Mediterranean, the Italian island of Sardinia holds a mystery just as profound as those we've explored, yet it sings a different, more rugged tune. Here, the landscape is dotted with over 7,000 strange stone fortresses known as nurag. These are not simple piles of rock. They are complex, beehive-shaped towers built entirely without mortar from massive basalt and granite blocks. The largest among them, like the magnificent Su Nuraxi di Baromini, rose to heights of nearly 60 feet with labyrinthine corridors, spiral staircases embedded within the thick walls, and central chambers capped by ingenious corbelled domes. For centuries, they were simply called fortresses, the obvious defensive strongholds of a warlike people. But to focus only on these imposing towers is to miss the true heart of the mystery. The real temple was not above ground, but below it, hidden away and revealing a civilization of astonishing spiritual and technological sophistication. Scattered across the island, often in close proximity to the nurag, are the true sacred treasures of this lost culture, the sacred wells. These are not mere holes in the ground for drawing water. They are masterpieces of precision engineering and deep religious symbolism, descending into the earth as inverted temples. The most stunning example is the well of Santa Cristina. To approach it is to walk down a long, narrow corridor formed by perfectly fitted stone walls that gradually descend, funneling the visitor into the earth. The architecture is breathtakingly exact. The entire structure is a precise isosceles trapezoid, and the stairs lead you down to a flawless cylindrical chamber that houses the water source itself. The roof of this chamber is a soaring, corbelled tholos dome, identical to the technique used in the nurag towers above, showing a seamless architectural language between their defensive and spiritual worlds. The engineering genius on display is what truly separates these wells from anything else in Bronze Age Europe. The builders possessed an advanced understanding of hydrology, carefully selecting sites where the water table was accessible, and then constructing their temple around it with stone that wouldn't contaminate the supply. But it's the astronomical alignment that pushes their knowledge into the realm of the miraculous. The well of Santa Cristina is arguably one of the most perfect ancient observatories on Earth. During the equinoxes, the precise angle of the entrance corridor allows the light of the full moon to shine directly down the stairway, striking the mirror still surface of the water at the bottom with a beam of light. This event transforms the well from an engineering feat into a profound spiritual instrument, a device designed to capture the celestial marriage of moon and water, light and darkness. This incredible sophistication makes the complete and total silence of the nuragic people all the more frustrating. We know they thrived on Sardinia for nearly 1,000 years, from around 1800 BC to well into the Iron Age. We have found their intricate bronze figurines, their distinctive pottery, and the remnants of their villages, but we have found nothing that can be called a written record. Not a single inscription, not a carved stone telling of a king's deeds, not a fragment of a prayer or a myth. Their language is utterly lost. We do not know what they called themselves, what gods they worshipped at these sacred wells, or how their society was organized. The name nuragic is simply a modern label taken from their most obvious structure. They are a civilization defined entirely by its physical artifacts, a ghost culture whose most intimate thoughts and beliefs remain locked within the silent, perfect geometry of their stonework. The sheer number of nurag towers points to a complex and likely decentralized society. perhaps organized into independent clans or chiefdoms that shared a common culture and architectural tradition. But what caused their decline? The story seems to be one of gradual transformation rather than a sudden collapse. First came the Phoenician traders, then the Carthaginian colonists, and finally the Roman legions. Each new wave brought foreign influence, new technologies, and new gods. The Neolithic people didn't vanish, they likely assimilated, their unique identity slowly melting into the cultural pot of conquerors, their language fading away, and the original sacred purpose of their incredible wells forgotten until modern archaeologists began to piece together the puzzle. The wells and towers of Sardinia stand as a monumental testament to a people who mastered their world with stone and water, who reached for the moon with impeccable precision, but who took the sound of their own voice with them into the depths of history. But even the most sophisticated stonework we've explored pales before the sheer, audacious ambition of our next temple, a structure so monumental it seems to defy not just explanation, but the very logic of construction itself. We travel now to the Ellora Caves in India, to a monument that stands as the world's largest single piece of sculpture. This is the Kailasa Temple, and it was not built upward from the ground. It was carved downward directly into the heart of a mountain. The numbers alone are enough to short-circuit the imagination. To create this temple, its builders did not assemble stones, they removed them. They excavated an estimated 200,000 tons of solid volcanic basalt rock, a process that would have required not years but generations of continuous, dedicated labor. Imagine the scene. Architects and master planners would have stood before a solid cliff face, not with a blank canvas, but with a mountain that already contained the perfect temple within it. Their task was to simply remove everything that was not Kailasa. They began by carving 3 massive, deep trenches straight down into the bedrock, isolating a single, gigantic block of stone that was over 150 feet long, 100 feet wide, and 100 feet high. This isolated monolith then became their raw material, and from it they began to sculpt every detail of the temple complex. They worked from the top down, first carving the ornate, multi-tiered tower or shikara that rises dramatically above the courtyard, and then working their way downward to create the pillars, the halls, the life-sized elephant sculptures, and the intricate panels teeming with gods and goddesses from Hindu mythology. This top-down method was the only way to avoid the need for scaffolding and to ensure the structural integrity of the soaring, freestanding pillars and the delicate, hanging bridges that connect different sections of the complex. The precision achieved with such a brutal, reductive process is what truly separates Kailasa from every other structure on Earth. This is not a rough-hewn cave, it is a masterpiece of architectural simulation. Every element you would expect in a traditionally built temple is present, but it is all carved from the living rock. The pillars have fluted designs and intricate capitals. The ceiling is adorned with carved lotus flowers. There are balconies that appear to be freestanding, galleries that look out into the central courtyard, and a multi-story gateway. The entire complex is a magnificent illusion, a building that mimics all the features of a constructed palace but is in fact one single, continuous piece of stone. The sculptors achieved such fine detail that they even carved stone beams that appear to support the ceiling, complete with faux wooden grain texture, a playful and breathtaking display of their absolute mastery over their medium. This brings us to the deafening silence at the heart of this achievement, the complete and total absence of any construction plans, drawings, or written records. For a project of this staggering scale and complexity, spanning multiple generations, the lack of any guiding documentation is perhaps the greatest mystery of all. How did the original architects convey their vision? How did they ensure that a team of sculptors 50 years into the project would not make a catastrophic error that could ruin the entire endeavor? One theory suggests they may have used a full-scale model made of plaster or wood on the cliff face itself, a template that guided the initial excavations. Others propose a system of master numbers and ratios, a sacred geometric code that was passed down orally from master to apprentice, ensuring consistency across centuries. The truth is, we have no idea. The only records that remain are the marks of their tools, the countless chisel strikes that still cover the walls, a permanent testament to the millions of hours of human effort that went into this act of faith. Why would a civilization commit to such an unimaginable undertaking? The answer lies in its purpose and its name. The temple is a replication of Mount Kailash, the Himalayan abode of the god Shiva. To carve this sacred mountain out of a mountain was the ultimate act of devotion, a way to bring the celestial down to earth. It was meant to be an eternal, indestructible testament to faith, a statement so powerful that not even time could erase it. The project is attributed to the Rashtrakuta king Krishna I in the 8th century, but the scale suggests it was a dynastic endeavor, the life's work of several rulers. The Kailasa Temple stands today not as a ruin but as a completed vision. It is a monument that challenges our very definitions of architecture and construction, a place where an entire mountain was transformed into a prayer, and where the only blueprint that ever existed was the unwavering faith held in the minds of its creators. While the magnificent spires of Angkor Wat rightly capture the world's imagination, they are merely the most famous chapter in a much deeper and more mysterious story written in stone across the entire Cambodian landscape. To truly understand the enigmatic Khmer Empire, we must venture beyond the well-trodden paths of Angkor and into the remote jungles where two lesser-known temple complexes, Koh Ker and Banteay Chh Ma, hold secrets that challenge our very understanding of this incredible civilization. Our journey first takes us north to Koh Ker, which served as the brief but spectacular capital of the empire for a mere 2 decades in the 10th century under the reign of King Jayavarman IV. In this short, intense burst of creative energy, the Khmer architects and engineers achieved something truly staggering. The centerpiece of Koh Ker is Prasat Tom, a colossal 7-tiered pyramid temple that rises like a man-made mountain from the flat jungle floor. Climbing its steep, towering steps is an ascent into the realm of the gods, a physical manifestation of the Hindu Mount Meru. But the true wonder of Koh Ker lies not just in its height, but in its audacious artistry and the puzzles it left behind. Scattered throughout the complex are some of the most finely detailed and massive carvings of mythical creatures in all of Southeast Asia. Yet, the site is also infamous for the sheer number of its masterpieces that have been looted over the centuries, their empty pedestals serving as silent witnesses to forgotten beauties. The most pressing mystery, however, is the linga that once stood at the pyramid's summit. Ancient inscriptions describe a gigantic, gilded Shiva linga that was so immense it required a monumental gold chain to lower offerings onto it. The scale described is almost mythological, and the logistical challenge of creating, gilding, and installing such an object at the top of this immense structure defies easy explanation. Why would a king invest so much in a capital city only to abandon it after just 20 years? The answer may lie in the water or the lack thereof. Archaeologists believe that Koh Ker's elaborate water management system, vital for sustaining a large population, may have failed catastrophically, forcing a hasty return to Angkor and leaving this magnificent city to be swallowed by the jungle for centuries. Far to the northwest, near the modern border with Thailand, lies another ghostly testament to Khmer ambition, Banteay Chh Ma, the citadel of the cats. This vast, sprawling monastic complex is one of the most enigmatic of all Khmer sites. It is not a single, centralized temple, but a low-lying, loosely organized collection of galleries and shrines, more like a small fortified town than a pyramid. Its remote location has preserved a haunting, melancholic atmosphere as the jungle slowly and patiently reclaims its stones. What sets Banteay Chh Ma apart and deepens the mystery of Khmer engineering is its extraordinary bas-reliefs.
While Angkor Wat is famous for its elaborate narrative carvings, the scenes at Banteay Chh Ma are on an even grander and more dynamic scale. The walls come alive with detailed depictions of naval battles on the Great Tonle Sap Lake, sprawling military processions, and most famously, the Avalokiteshvara. This is the Temple of 1,000 Faces, its towers and walls adorned with hundreds of serene, gigantic stone faces gazing out in all four directions, much like the more famous Bayon Temple in Angkor Thom. The craftsmanship is sublime, but the sheer volume of work is baffling. How did they manage such detailed, large-scale artistry across hundreds of temples? They left no detailed Chinese letter manuals or artist sketches behind. The knowledge was clearly held in the minds of master craftsmen and passed down through apprenticeships, an oral and practical tradition that vanished when the empire fell. This brings us to the empire's greatest mystery, its dramatic decline. The conventional explanation points to a combination of factors, including the religious shift from the god-king Hinduism to the more egalitarian Theravada Buddhism, which may have undermined the absolute authority of the ruler. Another theory suggests that extensive deforestation to create rice paddies led to catastrophic erosion that silted up the elaborate canal and reservoir system, causing devastating floods and droughts that crippled the agricultural base. Others point to relentless warfare with rising neighboring kingdoms like Ayutthaya. The truth is likely a perfect storm of all these factors, a slow unraveling of the social, spiritual, and environmental fabric that had held the empire together for centuries. The result was a gradual but final abandonment of the great stone cities, not to a conquering army, but to the relentless, silent advance of the jungle, which kept their secrets safe until modern explorers began to piece together the story of the most prolific temple builders the world has ever known. Leaving behind the sprawling temple cities of Southeast Asia, our journey takes a sharp turn north to the dramatic and mountainous borderlands between Russia and Georgia. Here, scattered across the high valleys and rolling foothills of the Caucasus Mountains, lies a silent, stoic army of stone. They are not grand pyramids or ornate cathedrals, but something arguably more mysterious, the dolmens. These are prehistoric stone structures, over 3,000 of them, built with a simplicity that belies their profound enigma. Each one is a window into a world we can scarcely imagine, constructed by a Bronze Age culture that mastered massive stones and the movements of the heavens, only to vanish without leaving a single clue to their name or language. A Caucasian dolmen is a study in minimalist genius. Most follow a remarkably consistent design, 4 massive stone walls supporting a single, enormous capstone, all carefully fitted together to form a small, box-like chamber. Often, a perfectly circular porthole is carved directly through the front slab, serving as the only entrance into the dim, enclosed space. The construction required an intimate knowledge of stone. The builders sought out specific types of sandstone and limestone, quarrying slabs that could weigh anywhere from 5 to 25 tons each. They then shaped these colossal blocks with stone and bronze tools, creating remarkably flat surfaces and near-perfect right angles. The final act of precision was the placement of the capstone, a single multi-ton lid that was somehow lifted and settled perfectly onto the supporting walls, creating a structure so stable that thousands of them have endured for over 5,000 years. The most immediate question is one of pure logistics. How did they move these stones? The dolmens are rarely found near their quarry sites. They were often transported across difficult terrain over hills, through forests, and across rivers. Without the wheel, which was scarcely known in the region at the time, and without any evidence of domesticated animals strong enough for such heavy labor, the method remains a complete mystery. The most plausible theory involves a system of wooden sledges, log rollers, and levers, combined with the raw muscle power of dozens, if not hundreds, of people. It would have been a slow, grueling, and incredibly dangerous process, suggesting a motivation of the deepest possible importance to their society.
The sheer number of dolmens points to a massive, coordinated cultural effort that persisted for centuries. This purpose becomes clearer when we examine their celestial connection. These were not random piles of rock, they were precisely oriented temples aligned with the cosmos. Many dolmens are positioned so that on the equinoxes or the solstices, the rising or setting sun will cast a beam of light directly through the small porthole, illuminating the chamber's interior for a few breathtaking moments. This was clearly intentional, a way of connecting the small, human-scale world inside the dolmen with the vast, cyclical dance of the sun and stars. It transformed these structures into astronomical calendars and most likely sacred spaces for rituals related to the seasons, the harvest, and the afterlife. Some researchers believe the chambers were used for sky burial, where bodies were placed inside to be defleshed by the elements before the bones were retrieved, making the dolmen a crucial portal between the world of the living and the realm of the ancestors. And then we hit the ultimate wall of silence, the builders themselves. This is perhaps the most frustrating aspect of the mystery. While we have the dolmens, we have nothing else that can be definitively linked to their creators. No settlements have been found nearby. No pottery, no tools, no jewelry, no weapons that clearly belong to the dolmen builders have been discovered in or around the structures. We have no carvings on the stones depicting their lives, no written records, not even any oral legends from later cultures that accurately explain their purpose. It is as if this entire civilization existed for the sole purpose of erecting these stone chambers and then simply vanished from the face of the earth, leaving behind no other trace of their culture, their daily lives, or their beliefs. This complete absence has fueled wild speculation, from theories that they were built by giants to more modern ideas about ancient extraterrestrial visitors. But the truth is likely more grounded and more tragic. The dolmen builders were probably a nomadic or semi-nomadic pastoral people moving their herds with the seasons. They may have built the dolmens as permanent ritual centers on their migratory routes, returning to them at specific times of the year for ceremonies. Because they were not a settled agricultural society, they left behind no large midden heaps or permanent villages for archaeologists to find. Their entire world was perishable, tents of leather and wood, tools of organic materials, a way of life that left footprints, not foundations. The dolmens of the Caucasus stand as their only enduring legacy, a silent testament to a people who looked to the stars, moved mountains of stone, and then walked off the stage of history, taking all their secrets with them. Now we travel to the highlands of Ethiopia, a land of ancient kingdoms and profound spiritual devotion, where one of the most superhuman architectural feats on Earth is found not on a mountain peak but beneath it. In the remote town of Lalibela, 11 monumental churches lie hidden, each one not built from the ground up but carved directly downward into the living volcanic rock of the mountainside. This is not a quarry, it is a sacred landscape transformed. To stand before these structures is to witness the impossible entire cathedrals, with doors, windows, columns, and vaulted ceilings, all excavated from a single continuous block of stone. The scale is almost incomprehensible. The largest of these churches, Bet Medhain Alam, is believed to be the largest rock-hewn church in the world, standing over 35 feet high with a roof level with the surrounding plain. The precision is what truly defies belief. The interiors are adorned with perfectly carved arches, geometric patterns, and detailed reliefs. A complex network of drainage trenches, ceremonial passageways, and deep, narrow tunnels connects the entire complex, a subterranean spiritual city often called the New Jerusalem. The method of construction is a mystery that has baffled engineers for centuries. The standard explanation involves an army of workers using nothing more than hammers, chisels, and iron bars. They would have first carved out a massive trench to isolate a single, gigantic block of stone still attached to the earth. Then, with painstaking patience, they would have begun the work of subtraction, slowly and carefully hollowing out the interior to create the nave, the aisles, and the sanctuary, all while carving the exterior details. The waste rock, estimated to be 100,000 cubic meters, had to be removed entirely, a logistical nightmare in itself. But this pragmatic explanation struggles to account for the sheer speed and perfection of the work. According to local tradition and the king after whom the town is named, these 11 churches were constructed in just 24 years during the reign of King Jeba Meskel Lalibela in the 12th century. To achieve this, workers would have had to remove over 5,000 tons of rock every single year, or nearly 14 tons per day, using only hand tools. The numbers simply don't add up, leading to a legend that feels less like a fairy tale and more like a necessary conclusion. This is where the story transcends archaeology and enters the realm of divine mystery. The enduring local legend, fervently believed by the Ethiopian Orthodox faithful, states that these churches were not built by human hands alone. The story goes that King Lalibela, a devout Christian, was visited by angels who showed him a vision of a new Jerusalem so that his people would not have to undertake the perilous pilgrimage to the Holy Land. With divine guidance, a legion of angels worked alongside the human masons, toiling through the night and accomplishing in hours what would have taken men months or even years. This celestial assistance explains the superhuman speed and the flawless precision of the carvings. For believers, the angels did not just help, they were the master architects directing the work and infusing the very stone with sanctity. This legend is not seen as a metaphor but as a historical truth, a testament to the faith that motivated this monumental endeavor. Yet, Lalibela is not the only Ethiopian site that whispers of a lost, advanced past. To understand its mystery fully, we must journey even further back in time to the ruins of Yaha. Here, standing in stark isolation, is the great Temple of Yaha, a structure so old it predates the arrival of Christianity in Ethiopia by nearly 1,000 years. Built in the 5th century BC, this temple is a masterpiece of a forgotten civilization, possibly the kingdom of Deletatubifmt. Its construction is utterly different from Lalibela's rock-hewn marvels, but no less mysterious. The walls are built from massive, precisely cut limestone blocks, fitted together without a single drop of mortar. The joinery is so tight, so exact, that the walls have survived for 2.5 millennia without any binding agent. The quality of the masonry is breathtakingly advanced, reminiscent of the finest work in ancient Egypt or Peru, yet it appears in the Horn of Africa with no clear evolutionary precedent. Who were these people? What advanced knowledge of geometry and stoneworking did they possess? And is it possible that the knowledge required to build the temple at Yaha was not entirely lost, but was passed down through the generations, perhaps inspiring or even enabling the later achievement at Lalibela? The two sites, separated by over 1,500 years, form a mysterious continuum, a thread of architectural genius that runs through Ethiopian history, connecting a pagan past to a Christian zenith, and leaving behind two of the most enigmatic and enduring sacred sites the world has ever seen. Deep within the lush rainforests of Chiapas, Mexico, the Maya city of Palenque stands as a monument to intellectual and artistic achievement, a place where architecture, astronomy, and profound mystery are fused into stone. Among its many splendors, one structure rises with a particularly potent aura of enigma, the Temple of the Inscriptions. This is not merely a pyramid, it is a multi-layered puzzle box, a funerary monument, and a celestial computer, designed to house one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in the Americas and to encode a message from the ancient Maya that we are still struggling to fully decipher. The temple itself is a breathtaking feat of engineering and intent. It was specifically constructed, layer by layer, around the year 683 AD to serve as the final resting place for one of Palenque's greatest rulers, Kayinish Janub Pakal, also known as Pakal the Great. The pyramid ascends in 9 steep tiers, a number deeply significant in Maya cosmology, representing the 9 levels of the underworld. A grand staircase runs up the front of the structure, leading to a small temple at the summit. But the true wonder of this building lies not in its upward climb, but in its hidden descent. For centuries, the temple was just that, a temple. It wasn't until 1952 that the Mexican archaeologist Alberto Ruzlulia noticed something peculiar about the flagstones of the floor in the upper temple. One slab had a double row of finger holes fitted with stone plugs. When his team lifted this massive stone, they revealed a steep, rubble-filled staircase that plunged deep into the heart of the pyramid itself. The excavation of this stairway was a painstaking process that took 4 full years. The passageway had been intentionally filled with stone and earth, a permanent seal to protect the king's journey to the afterlife. When Ruz and his team finally reached the bottom, they made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. They found a crypt sealed for over a millennium, containing an enormous, intricately carved stone sarcophagus. The lid of this sarcophagus, a single slab of stone measuring 12.5 feet long and 7 feet wide, is the source of one of the most enduring and controversial mysteries of the ancient world. The scene carved upon it is one of immense complexity and symbolic power. The mainstream archaeological interpretation is a masterpiece of Maya mythology. It depicts King Pakal at the moment of his death falling down the world tree, the sacred axis that connects the underworld, the earthly realm, and the heavens. He is shown in a posture of rebirth, descending into the jaws of the underworld to be transformed and ultimately to ascend, deified as the maize god. The imagery is packed with cosmic symbols: a celestial bird at the top, a double-headed serpent bar representing the king's power, and the water lily monster of the underworld. The entire composition is a sophisticated map of the Maya cosmos, a visual guide to the soul's journey after death, created by a culture with a profound and poetic understanding of life's cyclical nature. However, the precision and peculiar elements of the carving have fueled an entirely different and persistent modern interpretation. To some observers, the image does not look like a king falling into the underworld, but rather like an astronaut seated inside a complex mechanical device. In this alternative reading, the world tree is reinterpreted as a rocket or a spacecraft, with flames and exhaust pouring from its base. The king's reclining posture, with one hand on a control panel and another on a lever, his foot on a pedal, and his face obscured by what looks like a breathing apparatus, seems to suggest a pilot operating advanced machinery. This theory, popularized in the 1960s, posits that the Maya were either visited by ancient astronauts or possessed a technology so advanced it appears magical to us today. While mainstream science overwhelmingly rejects this astronaut theory as a profound misreading of Maya symbology, its persistence highlights a deeper truth. The carving is so stylized, so advanced, and so utterly alien to our modern visual language that it naturally invites speculative interpretations. The real technology on display is not mechanical but intellectual. The Temple of the Inscriptions is a profound testament to the Maya's staggering astronomical knowledge. The entire structure is precisely aligned with celestial movements. During the winter solstice, the setting sun casts a beam of light that illuminates the temple's central doorway in a specific and dramatic way. The 9-tiered pyramid, the 13 levels of the underworld mentioned in the accompanying inscriptions, and the intricate calendrical calculations found within all point to a civilization that saw time itself as a sacred, measurable cycle and built their architecture to mirror the heavens. This makes the ultimate fate of Palenque and the entire classic Maya civilization all the more poignant and mysterious. Within a few centuries of Pakal's magnificent burial, the great cities of the Maya lowlands, including Palenque, were abandoned. The jungle began to reclaim the plazas and temples, and the incredible architectural and astronomical techniques were lost to history. The why behind this collapse is one of archaeology's greatest detective stories. There was no single invasion or cataclysm. Instead, evidence points to a devastating combination of factors. A prolonged period of intense drought that crippled agriculture, leading to famine, rampant warfare between rival city-states that drained resources, and potentially a popular revolt against the ruling priestly class, whose intricate rituals failed to bring the life-giving rains. The Maya people did not vanish. They simply walked away from their grand ceremonial centers, leaving behind the silent, stone testimony of their genius, a sarcophagus lid that captures both their awe-inspiring view of the cosmos and the enduring mystery of their decline. From the jungles of the Maya to the islands of Japan, our exploration now takes us to a land where ancient traditions are preserved with a reverence found nowhere else on Earth. Here, two distinct but equally mysterious forms of temple architecture defy simple explanation: the colossal, keyhole-shaped coffin burial mounds of the early rulers, and the ethereal, constantly renewable I's grand shrine. Together, they represent a spiritual and architectural tradition that appears in the historical record with a sophistication that seems to arrive fully formed, as if whispered from another time. The most striking and enigmatic structures from Japan's ancient past are the coffin. These are not buildings in a conventional sense, but massive, earthwork tombs built for the early emperors and powerful clan leaders between the 3rd and 7th centuries AD. Their scale is simply staggering. The largest, attributed to the semi-legendary Emperor Nintoku, stretches over 1,500 feet in length and covers nearly 80 acres. It is surrounded by 3 moats and is twice as long as the largest Egyptian pyramid at its base. But it is their shape that is most astonishing. From the air, they reveal a perfect, symmetrical keyhole form, a circle connected to a triangle, a design that is unique to Japan and has no parallel anywhere else in the world. The precision of these vast earthworks implies a highly advanced understanding of surveying and geometry, the kind of knowledge required to plot such perfect shapes across rolling landscapes using only basic tools. The true mystery of the coffin lies not just in their creation but in their silence. These are sealed time capsules. The burial chambers, deep within the earthen mounds, have almost never been scientifically excavated due to the immense cultural reverence for the imperial ancestors and the belief that disturbing them would bring terrible misfortune. Because of this, we have no first-hand knowledge of what lies inside. We have no elaborate wall paintings, no treasure-laden sarcophagi, no inscribed stone tablets that might tell us about the beliefs of the people who built them. The entire culture that created these monumental tombs, known as the coffin period, is defined almost entirely by the Haniwa clay figurines placed on their surfaces, stylized models of warriors, priests, and animals, and by the tombs themselves. We do not know the exact religious significance of the keyhole shape. Some suggest it represents a key to the afterlife, while others believe it may be a stylized combination of a circle for the heavens and a square for the earth, a concept that appears in later Japanese thought. The builders left no written explanation, and their secret remains locked within the untouched grassy mounds. This theme of an advanced technique appearing without any evolutionary precedent continues at the most sacred site in all of Japan, the I's Grand Shrine. Dedicated to Amaterasu, the sun goddess and mythical ancestor of the imperial family, I's is the heart of the Shinto religion. Its architecture is the pinnacle of simplicity and purity, characterized by raised floors, thatched roofs, and a distinctive forked finial called a chigi rising from the roof beam. The buildings are exquisite in their craftsmanship, using a complex system of joinery that involves not a single nail. The wood is carefully fitted together with joints that allow the structure to flex and breathe, a technology perfectly suited to Japan's humid climate and frequent earthquakes. But here is the puzzle. This sophisticated, earthquake-resistant architectural style, known as Shinmei-zukuri, appears in the very earliest records without any evidence of cruder, simpler prototypes. It arrives in essence as a perfect architectural idea. The most profound mystery of eyes, however, is not its origin but its ritual. For the past 1300 years, in an unbroken cycle, the inner and outer shrines of eyes have been completely rebuilt every 20 years on adjacent, identical plots of land. This ceremony, known as the Shikinen Sengu, is one of the most remarkable traditions in the world. The old buildings are carefully dismantled, and every single element, from the massive central pillar to the roof thatch, is replicated exactly in the new construction. The old shrine's materials are then distributed to other shrines across Japan or used in smaller rituals, transferring their sacred power. This practice is not about restoration, it is about renewal. It represents the Shinto belief in the constant cycle of death and rebirth found in nature, ensuring the shrine remains eternally new and eternally ancient at the same time. This raises a fascinating and unanswerable question. Why 20 years? Some practical theories suggest it is the time it takes for a generation of master carpenters to train the next, or the natural lifespan of the holy Japanese cypress wood used in construction. But the true reason is spiritual, a number sacred from a time beyond memory. The eye's grand shrine, through its endless cycle of replication, exists outside of normal time. It is both a 2,000-year-old temple and a building that is never more than 20 years old. It is a physical manifestation of a living tradition, a perfect architectural form that has been passed down through countless generations of master builders, not through detailed blueprints, but through oral instruction and practiced skill. Together, the silent, earthbound coffin and the eternally renewable wooden shrines of eyes represent the two souls of ancient Japan. One focused on the monumental and eternal veneration of the dead, the other on the pure, cyclical, and ever-renewing worship of the forces of life itself. Yet, even as we marvel at the technological and spiritual sophistication of the ziggurats, their shadowy origins present a historical puzzle that rivals their physical grandeur. If we adhere to the conventional archaeological model of gradual societal progression, the appearance of such complex, large-scale public works projects in the early dynastic period feels almost impossibly abrupt. Where are the humble, experimental precursors? The archaeological record shows settlements like Eridu and Ubaid with simple mud brick temples, modest platforms that grew over centuries. But the conceptual and engineering leap from a raised platform to the multi-tiered, mass-produced brick mountain of the Namu ziggurat is a monumental chasm. It is as if the blueprint for the perfected ziggurat appeared fully formed in the mind of a Sumerian architect, a divine inspiration that bypassed centuries of trial and error. This sudden flourish of genius has led some researchers to ponder the influence of a lost predecessor culture, perhaps one that existed in the now flooded Persian Gulf basin, whose architectural knowledge was adopted and perfected by the Sumerians. While this remains speculative, it underscores a fundamental truth. The ziggurat seems to arrive on the scene not as a primitive first attempt, but as a mature, confident, and brilliantly executed architectural concept, a solved equation for which we have misplaced the initial workings. This paradox is further deepened by the Sumerians themselves, for they are one of the few ancient cultures on our list who left us a wealth of written records. Thousands of clay tablets detail their daily lives, their laws, their economy, and their religious rituals. We have administrative texts listing the exact rations of barley beer for the construction crews and hymns praising the gods for whom the ziggurats were built. Yet, in a frustrating silence that echoes across millennia, these meticulous scribes never saw fit to write down the actual how-to manual for building a ziggurat. There are no technical schematics, no detailed explanations of the engineering principles behind their stability, no treatises on the mathematics of their slopes or the logistics of their construction. The knowledge was likely considered a sacred craft, passed down orally from master builder to apprentice within closed guilds, a trade secret too valuable and holy to be entrusted to clay. The builders of Ur left us the poetry of their devotion but kept the prose of their engineering a closely guarded secret, leaving modern engineers to reverse engineer their genius from the crumbling ruins alone. And so, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia stand as a profound duality. They are at once the most documented and the most mysterious of our unknown temples. We know the names of the kings who commissioned them and the gods they were meant to please. We can read the prayers that echoed from their summits. Yet the very essence of their creation, the spark of innovation that conceived them, and the practical genius that raised them remains locked within the sun-baked bricks, a silent testament to the world's first civilization, whose greatest architectural wonders were built on a foundation of ideas that continue to elude our full understanding. For centuries, the Amazon rainforest was seen by explorers as a pristine wilderness, a green hell incapable of supporting anything more than small, scattered tribes of hunter-gatherers. The very idea of complex, ancient civilizations thriving beneath its dense canopy was dismissed as a fantastical myth. That narrative has now been completely and spectacularly overturned. Thanks to a revolutionary technology called LiDAR, which uses laser pulses to digitally strip away the vegetation and map the ground beneath, archaeologists have peeled back the leafy veil to reveal a lost world of staggering complexity. What they found was not a handful of villages, but the remnants of a vast, interconnected network of cities, towns, and monumental temple complexes, all built by a sophisticated civilization that mastered their environment on a scale we are only beginning to comprehend. The LiDAR images are nothing short of breathtaking. In regions like the Bolivian Amazon, surveys have uncovered massive ceremonial centers dominated by enormous raised platforms. These were not simple mounds of earth. They were precisely engineered truncated pyramids, some reaching heights of over 70 feet, constructed with millions of cubic feet of specially modified soil known as terra preta, or black earth. This soil itself is a technological marvel, a man-made super soil created by centuries of careful composting and charcoal integration, which remains incredibly fertile to this day. These pyramids formed the sacred heart of sprawling settlements, arranged in concentric circles or precise geometric patterns around vast, open plazas that could have held thousands of people for rituals and gatherings. The entire layout reflects a highly organized society with a shared vision and a powerful central authority capable of mobilizing a massive workforce. The scale of landscape engineering is what truly defies belief. This civilization did not just build temples, they sculpted the very earth beneath their feet on a colossal scale. The LiDAR data reveals an extensive, crisscrossing network of straight, causeway-like roads that connected settlements across dozens of miles, raised above the seasonal floodwaters. Even more astonishing is the complex of canals and water management systems. They constructed sophisticated riverine culture with artificial ponds for fish farming and elaborate ditches that controlled water flow for both agriculture and transportation. But the most iconic features are the countless raised fields, vast, patterned landscapes of ridges and mounds known as camelones. These were not haphazard garden plots, they were a brilliant agricultural technology. By building up the soil into these mounds, they provided drainage during the rainy season and retained moisture during the dry season, creating incredibly productive and sustainable farmland that could support a very large, dense population without destroying the forest. This was a civilization that worked in harmony with the Amazon, not against it, engineering an entire ecosystem to flourish. All of this was accomplished without two technologies we often consider fundamental to such achievements, the wheel and metal tools. There is no evidence that the wheel was ever used for transportation or construction in the ancient Amazon. Without draft animals like oxen or horses, every single task relied on human power. The millions of tons of earth moved to create the pyramids, causeways, and canals were shifted basket by basket. Their tools were made of stone, bone, and hardened wood. This fact makes their achievements even more impressive. It speaks to a social organization so effective and a collective will so powerful that they could achieve with sheer numbers and coordinated effort what other cultures might have achieved with machinery. Their technology was not based on metallurgy or mechanics, but on an intimate, profound knowledge of ecology, hydrology, and soil science. The greatest mystery surrounding these Amazonian temple builders is their identity and their ultimate fate. They are not the well-known Inca or Maya. They belong to a cultural tradition that was almost entirely erased by time and the rapid regrowth of the jungle. Based on the archaeological evidence, they are likely the ancestors of modern-day Arawak-speaking peoples, but their specific name for themselves is lost. The most poignant question is, what happened to them? The prevailing theory points to the arrival of European conquistadors and colonists in the 16th century. These newcomers did not just bring violence, they brought old-world diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza. For populations in the Americas that had no immunity, these diseases were apocalyptic. It is estimated that up to 95% of the indigenous population of the Americas was wiped out within the first century of contact. In the Amazon, this would have meant the collapse of the complex social structures that maintained the cities, temples, and fields. The jungle quickly reclaimed the plazas and roads, burying one of the world's most ingenious civilizations under a blanket of green, leaving only the whispers of their greatness to be rediscovered by lasers centuries later. Our final destination takes us to the misty green hills of ancient Ireland, to a landscape that holds a secret far older than the myths of leprechauns and Celtic warriors. Here, along the bend of the River Boyne, lies a collection of massive, circular mounds that are among the most spiritually charged and technologically baffling monuments in all of Europe. The most famous of these is Newgrange, a passage tomb that was already a breathtaking 5,000 years old when the Celts arrived in Ireland, and who, upon finding it, woven it into their own legends as the dwelling place of the gods. To call it a tomb is to profoundly undersell its purpose. This was a temple of the sun, a machine of earth and stone designed to capture a single, magical beam of light on the year's darkest day. The architecture of Newgrange is a masterclass in Neolithic engineering. The entire structure is a massive circular mound or cairn, spanning an acre of land and ringed by 97 massive curbstones, many of which are intricately carved. The most stunning of these is the entrance stone, a colossal slab covered in a mesmerizing, trance-inducing pattern of triple spirals and concentric circles. A long, narrow passage, lined with immense upright stones and roofed with massive capstones, leads deep into the heart of the mound. After 60 feet, it opens into a cross-shaped chamber with a corbelled vault roof that rises 20 feet above the floor. This roofing technique, where each layer of stone slightly overlaps the one below until the space closes at the top, is so perfect that it has remained completely waterproof for over 5 millennia, protecting the inner sanctum from the relentless Irish weather. The true genius of this structure, however, is revealed for just a few precious minutes at dawn on the winter solstice and for a few days on either side. Above the entranceway is a small, perfectly aligned opening known as the roof box. As the sun crests the horizon on the shortest day of the year, a narrow beam of sunlight streams through this slit, piercing the deep darkness of the passageway. This narrow thread of light slowly expands as it travels down the 60-foot corridor, eventually flooding the central chamber with a warm, golden glow that illuminates the intricate carvings on the back wall for approximately 17 minutes before retreating and plunging the chamber back into darkness. This was not a happy accident. The alignment is precise to within a single degree of arc. The builders possessed a deep, sophisticated understanding of the solar cycle, and they engineered this entire monumental structure, weighing over 200,000 tons of stone and earth, to function as a celestial clock, guaranteeing that even in the depths of winter, the sun's return was celebrated and assured within its deepest chamber. This leads us to the silent language of the stones themselves. The interior of Newgrange and its sister sites, Noath and Douth, are a gallery of ancient art. The walls are covered in those enigmatic carvings, spirals, lozenges, zigzags, and concentric circles. Unlike the later hieroglyphs of Egypt or the cuneiform of Mesopotamia, these symbols are not a written language that we can decipher. They are a purely abstract form of communication, a visual lexicon whose meaning has been utterly lost. Were they maps of the heavens, representations of the human nervous system in a trance state? Symbols of water, life, or rebirth, or perhaps they were intended to be seen in the dark by the fingertips of initiates during rituals. We can only speculate. Their power lies in their mystery, a silent prayer or a complex scientific notation rendered in stone by people whose thoughts and beliefs are completely closed to us. The final, frustrating layer of this mystery is the how. How did a Stone Age society, with only the most basic tools of stone, wood, and antler, accomplish such a feat? The stones themselves tell a story of immense effort. The massive slabs of greywacke and granite that form the passage and chamber were quarried from locations miles away, with some weighing over 5 tons. How were they transported across the rugged Irish landscape without the wheel or draft animals? The most likely method involved a combination of wooden sledges, log rollers, and gangs of hundreds of people pulling with ropes made from animal hide. The white quartzite that forms the brilliant, gleaming facade of the mound was sourced from even farther away, on the Wicklow Mountains over 40 miles to the south. The amount of labor invested is almost incomprehensible, a project that would have required a highly organized, sedentary society with a surplus of food and a powerful, unifying belief system that motivated generations of people to contribute to a vision they would never see completed. Newgrange stands not as a relic of a primitive people, but as an enduring symbol of their brilliance, a testament to their profound connection to the cosmos, and a permanent reminder that the deepest truths of the past often choose to remain whispered, not spoken. And so our journey ends, but the mystery is far from over. From the hunter-gatherer genius of Göbekli Tepe to the celestial clock of Newgrange, from the sunken cities of the Amazon to the floating metropolis of Nan Madol, we have spanned the globe and traversed millennia. We have stood before stones that whisper of forgotten gods and descended into temples that capture the very voice of the earth. The incredible diversity of these 30 sites is a powerful testament to one unifying truth. Human history is not a simple, linear story. It is a vast, intricate tapestry filled with brilliant threads that appear from nowhere, shine with breathtaking intensity, and then vanish back into the fabric of time, leaving us with nothing but awe and a relentless curiosity. What do these silent stones tell us? They speak of civilizations that rose to astonishing heights of artistic, scientific, and spiritual sophistication, only to be lost to war, famine, climate change, or the simple, relentless march of centuries. They hint at technologies and knowledge that we are only now beginning to appreciate: acoustic science at the Hypogeum, astronomical precision at Karnak, and stoneworking at Puma Punku that challenges our modern assumptions. These temples are not merely ruins, they are open-ended questions carved in granite and earth. They force us to humbly reconsider the capabilities of our ancestors and to acknowledge the vast, silent gaps in our own understanding of the past. Each one is a puzzle box without a key, a story with its first chapter forever missing. Now we turn the investigation over to you. Which of these enigmatic wonders captured your imagination the most? Does the underwater mystery of Yonaguni call to you? Or does the mathematical perfection of Chan Baore leave you in awe? Perhaps the divine legend of Lalibella's angels or the cosmic ambition of the Great Pyramid speaks to your sense of wonder. Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. The conversation is a vital part of unraveling these secrets together. If you're hungry for more journeys into the forgotten corners of history, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the unknown. The world is still filled with ancient whispers waiting to be heard, and we're just getting started.